Hello and welcome to Promotions here in Korea. Today we have a best of 5 taking place between Incredible Miracle and Dark Wolves, the former Virtual Throne Gaming, and the top finisher in the Challenger League here in Korea.
9-1, only 2 losses on the whole season, including playoffs, but this is Longzhou IM, and look, the regular season of champions never really been their purview, but this team is the master of promotions.
And they are the gatekeepers. We've been calling them that for years. You must be at least as good as I am to play in champions, otherwise you can't be here. So, earlier this year we've seen some impressive promotional performances from IM, very dominant promotional performances, but they haven't yet fully transitioned that into a solid regular season run.
I mean, their play, but even their lineups, Monte Cristo, how often has this team changed lineup? Their AD carries changed again today. Ignar and Frozen have been the rocks, but the other 3 members, it's been a revolving door everywhere else.
Well, Tucson is going to be playing jungle today, and I actually really like Tucson as a jungler. I think it took him some time to transition from the support role, but he was really looking on the up and up as the season ended. Now, looking at Dark Wolves, a lot of names that people aren't going to recognize here. The primary one that people might know is going to be Kyle, formerly Nara Kyle. He's known as a J-Scod here in Korea. He played for TDK in the Challenger Series. We'll be taking a look at our advanced teams. Of course, 8 teams so far, and then the promotion IM versus Dark Wolves and Spenu versus Ever.
And probably the most ironic thing about Kyle is probably most famous for being replaced by Alexic, of course, in TDK's promotion match. Did well in the Challenger Series and has been doing well over here in Korea as well. So on the most dominant team.
Yeah, definitely. Now, it has to be said that for those of you who don't know, Challenger in Korea works a little bit differently. And one of the issues with having these Challenger teams is that a lot of the top Challenger talent is actually on B teams of the primary roster, of Jin-Air or CJ, who are organizations that have full second 5-man units. So some of these more amateur teams do have a little bit of a struggle to get talent. In fact, Dark Wolves, all their players are masters. They're not even Challenger level players. So it's going to be an uphill battle, that's for sure.
Yeah, and kind of starts to not to succeed, as you mentioned. League 2 is what they call the reserve league and has a lot more talent than League 1. But speaking of League 1, we're going to start off with Longzhou IM.
Yes, we are. And of course, Ignar at the end. Sonstar in at AD carry today. Frozen, Tucson, and Expression rounding out the starting lineup. But remember, very deep bench on Incredible Miracle. They have 3 AD carries, they have 3 top laners, and then another jungler. They also have Lilac, who can play any position he feels like. So,
you know, apart from Sunstar, so much experience on this lineup. They've gone for experience in the top lane. Apple, Lilac, Expression have all played a hand, but Expression's going to be the starter. I'm not really convinced on this guy on the meta champions, but he's always got a surprise around the corner. A blast from the past from Expression.
Well, you know, it's a little bit sad because we are playing on 5.15 today, and if we were playing on 5.16, Expression with the Juggernauts would be the perfect split-pushing player. That is his forte, but he's going to have to wait on that one until a little bit later on this year to show off his skills on some of these new Juggernauts.
And I could see Longzhou IM locking in the Darius at first pick if it was 5.16, as the crowds come in to support Longzhou IM in force.
Manny's got the faces there. Not in costume today, but still in the studio. And
not in costume yet. Remember,
yes,
he changed very late in the series for KT last week, so always the chance that Manny will make another appearance.
That's right. And of course, as we move to the other side of the arena, we will be taking a look at Dark Wolves, the team that used to be Virtual Throne Gaming, for those of you who remember the NLB days, and are the champions of the Nice Game TV Challenger League. And a lot of up-and-coming players here. Their bottom duo, hilariously named Chelly and Jelly, which is even funnier when you realize that both of those words are pronounced exactly the same in Korean. So it's basically just a giant troll to the Korean casters because they can't actually differentiate between the players.
Next level Korean trolls. And in English, it's still hilarious. So a lot of value coming from Chelly and Jelly.
Yes, Chelly and Jelly. And of course, Kyle, we talked about him. His Jace play hasn't been playing Jace, but always a threat to come out. Has been playing a lot of Victor and Ferris in the Challenger scene. And Cube, a little bit interesting, playing some in the finals against Ever, playing some top lane Sunfire Rengar. The game they lost, it was pretty unimpressive.
I mean, I know you find that surprising. My surprise largely was around the fact that Hecarim was getting blind picked. Hecarim was getting first pick in a draft. Hecarim went out of the Champions meta maybe 6 weeks ago, but still entrenched in Challenger.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Hecarim for Cube has been a major pickup. We saw him play some Maokai too, though, so he does have some more standard picks mixed in there. And not to mention Curvavy, their jungler, a player who really likes to gank for Chelly and Jelly. Those three together form some impressively aggressive ganks and tower dives.
And it doesn't require the jungler for Chelly and Jelly to go aggressive. They are a very strong, powerful bot lane. And again, bot lane ganking in Korea has not really been that common. So an aggressive bot lane with an aggressive jungler is at least a tonic for an interesting series.
Yeah, a lot of fighting from the Dark Wolves. They like to skirmish. They like to go for those kills, sometimes dangerously overextending.
I feel like we've been robbed of Anarchy versus Dark Wolves, because that would be aggression against aggression.
It would be a bloodbath. We'll see how LZIM is going to respond to that level of play, because we normally don't see teams in Korea that will play quite so balls to the wall.
It's going to be interesting to see if they did get through to Champions, how they would shape up, or would they be like Anarchy, which really had kind of fits and spurts where they did look super impressive, throwing teams off with their aggression, or would they kind of fall away? Where do you see this series going? I know, speaking to the casters, most people are pretty confident that IM is going to come through pretty convincingly this series.
I think 3-0 IM. Just from watching Dark Wolves, I mean, it's just these players need more time to develop their communication in their macro game and not overcommit to a lot of their ganks. And I think that a professional team like LZIM is going to really punish them for those mistakes. And I think that LZIM, sure, they picked the Lux at the end of the season. They did look like they were just having a bit of fun to end things out. But I think realistically, IM, in the second round robin, after they picked up Expression, once Tucson got his feet underneath him as a jungler, was looking stronger.
And look, I have high hopes for this series, Monte Cristo. Back in 2012, I was casting NLB games, and I remember a brash young team facing up against CJ Entis in a final. Of course, that was GSG, which went on to spawn many famous players, ended with a very famous jungle Heimerdinger game. These professional team versus challenge team matchups can go in some interesting directions. So I'm optimistic that we're going to see at least these teams bring out the crazy this series.
Yeah, I hope we do. And I hope we see some Lucian and some aggressive laning play. I was impressed by Chelly's performance on that champion. And when they play for the laning phase, when we see the picks like Lucian and Lee Sin come out of Dark Wolves, it seems like that's their biggest ticket to success. Fiora ban against Expression, I am not surprised to see that in the least.
And speaking of expected bans, Kyle's Azir really did impress me. Azir was a very high priority for him, and for both teams actually, Ever and Dark Wolves in that final. So expected ban still on patch 5.15. Where will the first pick go? Will we just see an extension of the recent meta? Will Malphite actually play a factor in this series? Another question. Expression, going to be no stranger to the Malphite. You talked about aggressive bot laners. Expression, when he's actually got ahead in lane, has looked pretty impressive. Even on champions like Jax that are still on the fringes of the meta, Expression will overextend, and he has been a common gank target for the enemy team.
That's true, but we'll see if Dark Wolves can respond to that, because like I said, they do seem to put a priority on that bottom duo lane when it comes to jungler attention. At least will be the first pick for Tucson. And it's been a while since we've seen Tucson's jungling. It's nice to see IM again in the mix, and we'll see how far they have developed and if they can actually take a clean series here against Dark Wolves, as most people anticipate. Nidalee the hover right now. Be surprised if it was that pick instead of the Lee Sin, though.
Nidalee Maokai would make a bit of sense. That's definitely been the duo that really opens up top lane as an excellent game target for the Nidalee. Of course, targeted CC into that max range spear, even with the spear nerfs, is still very, very strong. But of course, teams put a very high priority onto Braum, so wouldn't be a surprise to see that taken away. We haven't seen much IM winning Monte Cristo in a long time. The last time they won actually was running Spooky in the lineup against Spenu, I believe. So I agree, Tucson has impressed on his re-entry to the team, but maybe this is the five-man lineup that gets them through Challenger at least. We're not going to see the Mordekaiser.
No, it is 5:15, guys, so no Mordekaiser here. However, the Braum pick, Dark Wolves, their specialty is those poke comps. So Gangplank and Ashe will be selected. They really like to run Varus, Ezreal, combos like that to maximize their poke damage. and play around objectives that way. So taking a bit of disengage right here, but the Ashe and the Elise taken for some early pick potential from IM.
So watching that final against Ever is a team that loves to play protect the comp. So Jugger more. They actually run a Jugger Ashe in the first match of the Challengers League 1 final. Dark Wolves responded. If you're against a team running very low backline threat, you can get away with the Varus if he's not going to be smashed by the likes of a Hecarim. So given Cube's preference for the Hecarim, will we see Hecarim in this particular game? Because with the Ashe locked in, with Gangplank, who's basically a backline fighter, wants to poke around with his barrels, you need some engage from Dark Wolves, and you're not going to get it from Rek'Sai.
Well, here's the interesting aspect, though, is that if they do pick the Hecarim, if the Gangplank goes top, then with a player like Expression, I think we can expect that's where it's going, and it will be the Jace. I'm excited to see it. Kyle's signature champion.
Yeah, not Kyle. Kyle, and of course, was actually previously on Virtual Throne Gaming before he went over to America, so a very long association with this organization, and signature champion. Comfort is a good way to go in Game 1. You know, some teams, they either throw all the pins at the board and go for the crazy strat in Game 1, or you go for the comfort and try and get your bearings in what is their first visit to this big Yongsang Esports Stadium in a big match for their future.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's going to be a pleasure regardless. I'm glad Kyle going back to his pocket pick right now. Frozen likes to play poke champions too, but he may be going for the Diana a little bit more all in onto this Jace.
Double teleport, global on the Ashe ultimate, high pressure at the double globals. Of course, Gangplank has a global ultimate as well, so Longzhu IM can show up in multiple lanes at the same time. Very low magic damage, but with the teleport ignite, I think it's Hecarim time, Monte Cristo. I guess it could be the Fizz as well, but need to find magic damage.
Could be the
somewhere.
Rengar.
So Rengar, just to give our viewers context, Rengar is the chosen. Now, Cube played a lot of Hecarim. Ever first picked away Hecarim. Already a crazy thing to say on patch 5.15. And Cube's answer was teleport ignite Rengar. Now, it didn't win them the game, but given all his confidence in the matchup, he clearly must know something about it. It was a tank Rengar, even from this. Not Trace full damage Rengar from a couple of years ago. This was Sunfire Cape into Spirit Visage or something along those lines. Where are they going to go with this last pick? Are they going to pigeonhole themselves purely on physical damage? Or maybe just get the slightest of base damages from the Maokai?
I think you go this direction, honestly, Papa Smithy, but they may go for that Malphite. They would have some hard engage in that case, but looks like the Hecarim will be the pick, but there's not going to be much to stop the Gangplank from farming in the top lane. Both of those champions like to sit back, pick up some items, and honestly, Gangplank is probably the better late game carry at this point in time.
I think the Hecarim's kind of necessary, though, to get on top of the Ashe. They definitely needed something with backline threat. I agree that this is a farm lane that, of course, the income advantage is always going to be with Gangplank, probably even going to pick up an Avarice Blade to be getting 10 gold on every last hit. Big worry for me. You get in fairly melee range as Hecarim trying to pick up CS, you are opening yourself up to a lot of barrel harass, and I expect low health values for Hecarim across this laning phase.
Yeah, could be quite dangerous, too. The Elise there to provide some crowd control in the gank, so Q may have a tough time staying alive. And they do take the Lucian in the bottom lane. I'm really happy to see this. I think that Chelly and Jelly do very well with the Lucian in the laning phase. They can put down a lot of that pressure. See how Frozen handles the Jace. Frozen, a big-time poke player himself. Of course, spent a lot of the season on long-range control mages. His Varus particularly impressive. And the Yasuo was flashed here, and Yasuo was banned for a lot of the finals against Dark Wolves, so it's something that the teams take very seriously when they're playing up against this challenger team. Nobody likes Dark Wolves, apparently. Oh!
Some people do.
Dark Wolves fighting. All right, so we are in our first game of promotions here in Korea. 2 days of promotions, and it will be between LZ Incredible Miracle and Dark Wolves fighting for a spot in Champions Spring next year.
So Monte Cristo, you watched a lot of regular season matches of League of Legends in 2015. I don't know if we've seen a Jace win post-Jace rework. I think the answer is no.
In Korea, that is.
That's correct.
That is true. We saw Coco try it, and not do quite so well with it. It was popular briefly in some of the Western regions and in China, but it never really took root here in Korea, which is surprising because you'd think that it would be a little bit better, a little bit smoother of a power curve into the late game. But he's still quite vulnerable.
Incredible Miracle fans. Probably don't need a Miracle today. They come in as favorites, so we might have to revise that statement if they fall behind in this series, but they should be pretty confident. And I feel like one of the reasons that a champion like Jace has a very strong laning phase, lots of chip damage, strong poke and burst, struggles is that now things like teleport mid laners come in, and even champions like Diana, who doesn't have a strong levels 1 to 5, is very tanky, is hard to pin down, but is still a melee champion wave clearing. The fact that you can take the teleport, the fact that there's not a lot of kill pressure onto her, means that even if you get chipped out, just go back to base, come back, your turret will not fall down. If you're against, say, a Diana with Ignite, if she ever makes a mistake, force her out of lane, you can take that turret so damn fast if you're the Jace. But when you got the teleport, that threat's not there.
Yeah, definitely true. And the other aspect of the teleport, too, is that when we have, I totally agree with LZIM's focus in this game. Go for as many globals as possible. If you're playing against a team that doesn't have the same level of communication or teamwork or map sense that you do, you could just 1-3-1 split push them or surprise them when they go overly aggressive. It's a great tool to deal with teams that tunnel on kills and over pursue, and we definitely know that Dark Wolves is one of those teams.
That's what we saw. We liken them to some LPL teams, specifically spring season LPL teams, where it was super bloodthirsty times in that league. And you're right, pressure the macro game, because the micro game, in general, Korean micro skills, Korean play, I'm playing at Gold 5 at the moment on a new account, and the Lee Sin kicks are coming in fast and furious. The insect players are there, the mechanical skills are there, but macro play is something that requires just a whole different ballgame. It's why scrims are so different from solo queues. So much more communication required, and a big test for Dark Wolves in Game 1.
Yeah, honestly, I'm surprised IM didn't lane swap too, because that's another fast way to take down some of the less experienced teams, is to start putting them in complex lane swap situations. Can give established teams a pretty substantial edge, but not going to get it this game. However, they still will have that pretty good matchup with Gangplank versus Hecarim in the top side, and this game could come down to that split pushing because LZIM, their siege is pretty bad.
So Tucson is coming in thick and fast. Dark Wolves, as expected, are pushed in bottom, pushed in mid as well. Tucson has lots of gank opportunities this game.
Very predictable gank, though. 3.5 minutes coming through. So how careful are Dark Wolves going to be right here, Tucson? Yeah, Dark Wolves smelling something right now. They don't want to get flash holved. And there you go. Oops, already going to miss that cocoon, but they're still going to get the first blood onto Sunstar.
The burst is still there, Monte Cristo. With the headbutt, enough displacement. That 700 units did the job. And we can see in the top lane, Rek'Sai is spotted out. So Dark Wolves like to play aggressive. I credit them for still having the confidence to do that in Champions. But when your warding's off, and speaking of warding,
Tucson just going to waltz into the mid lane right here. Force Kyle out with a spider. Especially pushed back a little bit, but he has his safety keg. I wish I had a safety keg.
Yeah, safety blankets are often a thing. Safety kegs is something different. Sounds like a college student's best friend, the safety keg.
I wish I had those in college, Baba.
Definitely the tonic for a good Friday night, a safety keg.
Your party's still going and you run out of beer, well, that's why you have the safety keg.
Yeah, you keep it to the side, out of vision, so no one can see it.
Yeah, you have to break it out only in case of emergencies.
That's what Gangplank does. GBM was doing the same thing, hiding it towards the side of the lane when we saw his very impressive mid-lane Gangplank. So, especially on a carry champ, it's exciting to see.
Yep, good times. Well, Frozen still suffering from some poke, and here we go. Dive coming through. Chelly all by himself. Volley will miss. Cocoon will miss it. Nice flash on the headbutt.
It's the mechanical skills we talked about. Tucson falls super low, but no real kill threat coming through without an aggressive flash, and he just used his defensively. This is what we talked about in the mid lane. Frozen hasn't used his teleport, but is struggling, and just the reality of a ranged versus melee matchup, and Jace taking the turret is kind of what he wants to do. He really wants to open up this mid lane, but so much harder to do now that teleport meta has really hit the mid.
Yeah, and Frozen is falling back, but he has plenty of sustain with the flask and the biscuits. Still going to take quite a chunk, though, and he has been struggling farming. it's been left high and dry as TuSin just repeatedly ganks that bottom lane.
But again, that's only possible because of Summoner Teleport. That's if there was no Summoner Teleport mid-game meta, you would have to gank this lane to relieve pressure. But the fact that once he runs out of flask charges, he can just go back, fill up on that, get some more potions, get some combat stats from the likes of a couple of Doran rings. This is what Teleport does, and now TuSin's trying to relieve that pressure that we spoke about. It's one of those situations where people would always take Teleport if you could get away with it, if you didn't need the Ignite for lane control. If you can take a global and still have some semblance of lane control, you are just so damn happy.
Yeah, makes so many different plays possible. Teleport, probably the strongest summoner spell in the game. It's just how do you get away with it without dying in lane?
Be Diana with crazy base stats, shield, damage, all-in potential without Ignite. Again, you have to be able to get away with it. So either you're Lulu and you just clear waves and you're relieving pressure with your teleport, or you're a champion like Diana that just is crazy.
Indeed. Well, the top lane has been pretty boring without any jungle pressure up there so far. Scuttlecrab now taken by TuSin. Kvavi did see that pink ward goes down, so he comes mid to clear it out, and there's the TP coming in from Frozen already.
He's felt pressured enough to go for the Seeker's Arm Guard, so can't go towards the Nashor's Tooth. Of course, split pushing is another big upside of the Summoner Teleport, and that's at least going to be delayed, because you definitely need at least the Stinger to really be relevant in a split push situation.
Yeah, that said, in the late game, though, there isn't going to be anybody who can stop a 1-3-1. They got Hecarim, but they can't stop the Diana at the same time.
So there's safety kegs and there's hidden kegs. This is just for another day when you're just like, okay, this keg needs to last me to Thursday, so I'm going to hide in a bush.
Yeah, the surprise keg.
Surprise keg.
The surprise kegs are nice, though. You know, you put them there for your friends and make sure that they have, you know, a little bit of a Christmas present.
I feel like it's a grown-up version of the Easter Bunny. The surprise kegs.
I would love
You go on a keg hunt?
I would love to have a keg hunt sometime with you, Papa Smithy. Let's do it.
We could go keg hunting on the weekend, you know. There's some great beers in our area.
Gotta hide them, though.
That's true.
In the brushes.
There's the trade damage we're talking about. Not much to speak about, but let's talk about Free Farm Wars, Gangplank versus Hecarim. GBM has shown us what you can do in the late game. Remember, this is 5-15. The live values is 50% armor penetration for those kegs. It's still 60% in this patch, so we were seeing full tanks taking roughly 1,100 damage from AoEs. The famous China clip that we saw from IG basically exploding their enemies with the keg. There is crazy damage potential, but still, Hecarim is a necessary evil for Direwolves to control Ashe. So if Hecarim is dealing with Ashe, maybe you're okay with the CS trade. I know you can be skeptical, but it is necessary.
I'm very skeptical about this, Smithy. I do agree that they have to have some way to deal with Ashe. I'm just not sure that Hecarim is necessarily the solution.
What's the solution then? 5-15.
Malphite could have taken Malphite here. Something that could be a little bit tankier, a little bit more immediately useful. Cube gonna go in right now, especially gonna pop his ultimate, flash right into it, ignite down on him, but no successful gank. He gets out.
It was actually really nice mechanics to get the E backwards into the oncoming Rek'Sai, force out the flash. That was nice Hecarim. As expected from Cube, this guy has played a lot of Hecarim in competitive. CS lead is non-existent though, and obviously they're both going to be building the same way, both looking for the Trinity Force Rush.
Yeah, but that Gangplank just so much scarier in the late game. Certainly Hecarim no slouch, but GP could present a threat that they don't really have the tools to deal with. Expression actually going to go for an Avarice Blade here, so it's Bankplank all the way. And, you know, at a certain point, why wouldn't you? That Hecarim just no Ignite anymore, no ultimate. You're going to have time.
But there is a response to that purchase. If you walk into lane as Cube and you see Avarice Blade, okay, firstly it's disrespectful. You're buying a GP10 item that doesn't really present any relevant laning stats, but Gangplank a little bit more than most is Kyle.
TuSin gonna come in and they're gonna have to fall back. And we see the TP moving in right now. Great pull from
ultimate.
Ignar, just shut that one down. And there's the old pop from Ignar. He is not going to die. Everybody from Dark Wolves in the mid lane, 5-man, but they can't make it work.
Yeah, Cube's the only one that has an initiation ultimate, and of course didn't have it set up. Speaking of being set up, there's one of those. That's awkward.
Cube, the bait there, having that ward in the brush, so not going to land the parlay keg.
So that was a surprise keg misfire. That's when you want to put down a surprise keg. Speaking of surprise.
And surprise, Kyle. There's an Ashe Arrow, there's a flash, and there's a dead Jace eventually. It's going to fall down right there. Frozen getting low, and he's actually going to get traded, but they're going to get Curvavy. So 2 for 1. TuSin picks that one up. They delayed Frozen enough, but Frozen got that kill and a great Ash arrow to set up a 2-second stun.
Pre-season 1 strategies, Monte Cristo. Shoot that arrow from spawn. If it hits, 3.5 second stun will do it. Speaking of stuns, Expression's super low cube. Can he kite it out? He can't, and it's a 1 for 1.
Yeah, he can, but there's that problem. You know, Cube loves to trade kills with Hecarim. He will just all-in you all the time.
And in the tank meta, that's probably okay, but against a Gangplank, that's not ideal.
No, it's not. If you have that top lane carry, the items become so valuable on a champion like Gangplank, it doesn't make a lot of sense. He is going to deny a little bit of CS here, so I suppose there is that upside to it, but still, when you don't even have that Ignite down, a little bit risky, but perhaps wanting to make Expression pay for that Avarice Blade purchase.
Both teams going for 1-for-1 turret dives, not ideal. Of course, it evolved into a 2-for-1 because there was support from TuSin in the mid lane, but some trademark aggression from the Dark Wolves, but some surprising aggression from Longzhu IM.
Yeah, they really wanted to go for that kill onto the Jace. Frozen building towards Zhonya's Hourglass first, so will be his first major purchase. And it looks like the double Avarice coming out, actually, so Expression and Sunstar getting greedy now. This means that they're going to hit a power spike sooner, but in a bit of a trough right now. And it's sometimes rough, just like with 2 tiers, to get away with 2 Avarice Blades. It kind of means you can't really fight for mid-game dragons as effectively.
The general thought process behind the Avarice Blade is delayed first item, but faster 2-item spike. Static Shiv is already cheaper, and then you're getting that extra gold that effectively makes the cost lower. So you're really powering later, but faster, if you know what I mean. So and the reason why more recently, or in the second half of the season, we're seeing more of this is that, of course, with the Infinity Edge nerf, the rush of that item is just less profitable. You're not getting that extra critical strike. When you finish that item, it's kind of debatable whether, say, BF Sword Pickaxe Berserker Greaves is stronger or less strong than just an Infinity Edge rush. So players are really finding creative ways to get over that recipe purchase as TuSin being punished for starting this dragon early.
Thought he might be able to solo it right there, but with the blue buff up and the Dark Wolves members around that dragon pit already, he will be found out and stopped from taking that objective. Of course, they do have the advantage in that they have that Gangplank ult. And TuSin, oldest trick in the book, there's an arrow to follow it up, and hello, a ton of CC. Sunstar gets the kill in the end. Now, Jelly and Curvavy still around, but that damage coming through. Here comes Frozen from the side. Hecarim's made his way down to the bottom jungle, but it's not going to be, barely enough actually to save Jelly, but they take one. And Kyle, you can't walk there. They know your blue buff is up, and unless you have vision for sure. Ignar still mixing it up straight into a cocoon, and there comes Frozen. Alistar ult popped, and that's going to force the flash out of Chelly too. Frozen probably doesn't want to go in on that one, and instead he's going to do a little bit of a dive, take some more kills, and Expression's left to his own devices in the mid lane. Teleport coming through from Diana.
Let's talk about the pre-game chat. You were talking about the fact that these extra teleports really put the macro screws onto a Dark Wolves team that's really sailed through Challenger. Rotations was the big story there. Chelly stayed in lane the longest time. There was a big skirmish. He didn't even respond at that point, and his team really paid the price. And you're just seeing, even without using the globals, what pressure a pro team like IM can put on these challengers from Dark Wolves.
Well, Chelly probably didn't want to go in because he actually is behind in items right now. Now, they could take a dragon in response. Looks like they will get number 1, but that's not going to be of too much concern considering the gold lead that IM has developed already. The fact that they did go for the double Avarice Blades. They're not really looking to contest in a 5v5 right now. They take the advantage they have with the quick kill onto Kyle's Jace and then move from there.
And it is a 14-minute first dragon, so we're talking about a very late 5th dragon rush. And as you mentioned, with the fact that the 2-item spikes are going to hit earlier because of the double Avarice Blade, by the time we're talking about the 3rd dragon, maybe even the 2nd, but predictably the 3rd dragon, the item time is just going to be there for IM with the immediate gold from the kills and the investment approach of the double Avarice to ensure that a 5th dragon win condition, very unlikely from the Dark Wolves.
Absolutely, and they are going to find out Curvavy there from the Dark Wolves with the Hawk Shot. Tons of wards into the Dark Wolves jungle so far, and there's a turret going down in favor of Longzhu IM. Expression getting low, has that Ignite used on him, but the ult is going to miss, and he's just going to stand at attention and head back to base.
It's worrying that with Trinity Force and an Ignite, can't deal with the Gangplank, who is still really just investment banking with the Avarice Blade and overextending to take the turret. So couldn't punish that, and now the Triforce is hit, and it only gets scarier here from Gangplank.
They did force the flash, but meanwhile, Tucson on a solo mission to delay Kyle. Frozen has to go out and help out his buddy. You do see the Crescent Strike hitting, and where are they going to go for it? Yeah, Frozen going to get it knocked in. And here we go, Ignar there. Ash Arrow going to miss, a little bit odd. And Frozen will pay for it in the end, but here comes Expression. He has teleported into this fight, and there are the chunks coming down. And here comes the Pirate cleanup crew. It's going to get one parlay here for sure. Goodbye.
Long-range snipe parlay, and your favorite champion's doing things here, Monte Cristo. Gangplank's going off, and it's pretty predictable.
Yeah, here we go, trying to zone out Cube. They want to dive this. There's the flash, and of course the Cocoon right afterwards, and Expression with another kill. Now 4-1-2, and who is going to stop the Gangplank now?
You could tell with the Zhonya's rush that IM were looking to play a skirmish game. They're looking to fight because he didn't prioritize the Stinger until second item, building for team fights. It's much like with Twisted Fate. If you see the Zhonyas, it's team fight time. If you see the Nashor's Tooth, it's very much going to be the split pushing game, but they're looking for the fights and they're consistently finding them. Just watch how long Dark Wolves have to fight on this Gangplank ultimate.
Yeah, and they also not respecting the Gangplank ult coming through. Not really sure what happened to that arrow there, just a little bit wide. But Expression here cleaning up with a lot of these kegs. Great triple keg chain right there into the kill. Jelly not going to get out before that parlay is in range and he triggers the missile.
IM are playing exactly the game they want. They're getting in aggressive wards. They have double teleport. They have double globals as well. Dark Wolves just can't take these skirmishes, but if they don't, they're losing resources on their jungler, on their top lane. They're getting pushed in. The pressure game from IM is what is separating these two teams.
Yeah. Well, incredible miracle with this kind of lead right now, and the fact that their split pushers have gotten rolling and the Jace has been delayed means that they have a lot of freedom when it comes to that 1-3-1 right now, and Dark Wolves simply don't have a good way to stop it. And there we go, Jelly going to get nailed by the Ash Arrow, but gets the Unbreakable up in time.
Take any damage. That cooldown's down, but they just have no pressure on the map. Their jungle's been invaded. They've been losing skirmishes left, right, and center, and they're going to lose their mid turret.
Hey, Ignar going in, and there goes Kyle, just exploded by a keg, and the Gangplank ultimate coming through right afterwards. Kurvevi will fall for a double kill for Expression, who is absolutely taking over this game. And the Sheen from Expression and all that damage going to mean that another turret goes down, and that is 2 in the mid lane taken consecutively. Are they going to get 3 right here at 18 minutes?
Yeah, they're just really trying to round out this game. The culling is channeled. It's doing decent damage. They're not going to quite take the turret just yet, but they're going for it.
Yeah, have another wave there and ready. And they're going to take it. They're going to take an 18-minute inhibitor right here. Dark Wolves are going to be bottled up in their own base. And that's going to be about it. So huge control, perhaps even a 20-minute Baron coming here from LZIM. And there you go.
Nope.
Tucson trying to get out. He just has to go over to Cube right now. Frozen once again into it. Ignar trying to delay. They do lose Tucson, but here comes Frozen into the back line, over-committing for this. They have so much money they just haven't spent yet from 3 turrets.
Yeah, they're 8,000 gold ahead, but a lot of that's in the bank, like you mentioned. And then just re-engaging. Remember, because they're over-leveled, because they've been doing so well, they're passing on both shutdown gold and that extra experience, and they're giving a window in that was utterly unnecessary. Remember, they'd already got the inhibitor at 18 minutes, and yet they're still re-engaging.
Well, we'll see how much it actually matters. Take a look at this big-time tower dive. I mean, Ignar's been playing great this game.
Ignar's been playing great this season. He has been the shining star of the lineup next to Frozen. No surprise that these are the 2 stalwarts of the lineup. Gangplank ult slows everyone down, and just the fast push from there. It's crazy to think that the team with Jace is getting fast pushed on by Ashe Diana, but that's the reality of this game.
The GP has been doing some good work in terms of putting kegs up to zone out Dark Wolves and dragging up in 30 seconds, but we'll see how the members of IM want to respond. They certainly could just put on a full press right now. They have the wards to potentially set up for that Baron. Ignar already threatening it.
Really seeing a champion like Hecarim exposed a bit this game. He's doing fine in farm. He's 14 CS up, and his score is fine, but in a meta where everyone was playing top lane tanks with teleport and smite, Hecarim was fine. He was actually unique in that you could actually build the Trinity Force and be a damage threat in the late game where every other tank was just super tanky and just with a bit of CC. Now in this meta, it feels a bit like Sejuani, where Sejuani had her time in the sun, saw a couple of nerfs, and then people realized the late game trade-off just wasn't really there with how weak the early game is. Now that you can even run carry champions in the top that can smash him in lane, like a Riven, for example, or can just out-farm him and out-teamfight him in Gangplank, just doesn't really feel like a meta where Hecarim can make a big impact.
Right, and you also have to look at the fact that in a split push situation, he is so far away from getting any form of armor that is going to allow him to even do much of anything at all against Gangplank.
Yeah, I mean, Gangplank's most of the way to an Infinity Edge, and that's with the already the Berserker Greaves on top, so scary thought. It's Cube, I mean, he's just trying to take out wards, but he can't even do that with his pink, and at this point, Dark Wolves, they have control of maybe the minions hitting their base, but apart from that, everything is a bridge too far, and the gold lead's only going to increase for Longzhou IM.
Yeah, and with both TPs up, they certainly can just go ahead and start pushing like they are doing, and the 1-3-1 right now, that is going to be their best option if they don't want to immediately threaten a Baron. But if Frozen sees more than one person bottom side, he should just TP to Baron immediately and take that objective, and then they can put their final push on without having to be so concerned with their relatively poor siege with this composition. That Expression just getting 1 million free hits at the tower because Hecarim's in bottom.
This is one of those crazy games. If you have the win condition checklist for Longzhou IM, everything will be checked. They have 2 split pushes that will vastly outmatch anyone that is sent against them. Double globals, even just assist globals in the likes of the Ashe ultimate and the Gangplank ult. Their carries are ahead in items. They're winning fights and skirmishes. Everything is going right for Longzhou IM, and except for the arrows. They've been wide a couple of times.
Yeah, they've also been from base and scored some kills, so I'm willing to give Sunstar a bit of a pass here. And are we going to see now, with that super minion wave pushing, an attempt at the Baron? No direct vision for Dark Wolves on that objective, and Frozen already set up here to possibly teleport in. They haven't cleared out that brush, though, so standing in a ward at the moment.
Sloppy play from Longzhou. Uncharacteristic of their first 22 minutes.
And there we go. Finally figured it out there.
For a second there, they were standing in the ward, and I thought it was Disco Lights Gangplank, just chilling out.
Disco Plank.
I mean, Disco Nunu's been in this talk because of all the NA pros playing solo queue, and you see the Nunu locked in with the, I believe it's Clairvoyance Clarity,
Yeah.
and you get a sweeper and you dance.
Yep.
Dance in the Disco Lights of the sweeper.
I don't know where that came from.
It's really funny. Also, the Troll Champions change meta to meta, Monte Cristo. Not much Nunu these days.
All right, so wards directly on the Baron now. LZIM definitely not doing a great job of closing this one out. It's been 5 minutes since they took that inhibitor, and they haven't applied really much pressure at all to that Baron, and they can just do it right now pretty easily.
That sounds like a slogan. You should use that one for Renegades. Just do it.
I think I might be sued. I think I might be sued there, Papa Smith.
Oh. It's not a League of Legends term? No?
They're going to methodically clear out these vision wards. Of course, they could get a pick here. That would make things a lot easier for them. But in the meantime, Diana has to be split pushing.
I guess one point you could make is that their pick is when a team is playing as defensively, where at least Cocoon is not really a reliable initiate when the team's basically playing on the back foot. It's only Ashe Arrow, and Sunstar's been looking for them, but...
They have Alistair too, so they can definitely initiate team fights.
Sure, but with how defensive this enemy team is playing, it's Flash Pulp or nothing for Longzhou with this Ashe Arrow down.
Try and push in right now towards the inhibitor once again. Has respawned in that mid lane. There we go, just some keg zoning. Just waiting to see how far this inhibitor will be whittled down in the mid lane. Dark Wolf's going to have to actually engage at some point here if they want to save this. Ignar is going to push Cube back, but this might be the timing they're looking for. No more headbutt and a great culling, chunking out the members, and they're going to buy some more time to get that poke down.
The keg did 3/4 of Chelly's life, though. He has to go on back. That's enough pressure that IM will pick up this inhibitor, but can they actually translate it into a Baron? Because the answer so far has been no.
Well, they are going to find some more wards right here, and they are reluctant in case they get poked out while the Baron's going down, so they want to kill first if at all possible. Going to sit in a pink warded brush and try for this one. Jelly! Oh man, those cocoons from Tucson have not been on point this game. And there we go, he's going to get onto Expression in the back line. Cube has to run away. There's the Gangplank ultimate, and here comes some kegs. Doesn't actually chain them together to hit that final shot. And Ignar getting a little bit low. Kyle on the flank right now. Tucson has to flash out to avoid dying, and can they finish off the kill onto the Jace? Expression 1v4ing effectively right now. And there we go, Frozen. The jump forward doesn't hit the Crescent Strike, and there is the gate to get a little bit faster. Kyle going to get out of this one eventually, or not. Flash comes through.
That time the fadeaway worked, but that was really poor team fighting from Longzhu. And remember, they were 10,000 gold ahead, but their target selection, their grouping, everything about that team fight was desperately poor. We're going to see a replay, I imagine, at some point, but I guess with such a low kill fight, maybe we don't even bother, as they just didn't commit on a singular target, but they are going to commit now. They're drawing a teleport. It seems to be Baron time.
It is Baron time. Expression is there. They're going to burn it down very quickly, and we have Frozen TPing in from the base, and this is a play they could have been making quite a long time ago. Gonna make it now. Ignar going through, just denying any kind of possible smite steal, and that's the right play. Ignar will get the Baron buff with the help of his team, and now we can actually start moving into an even more dangerous 1-3-1 split.
I think you just force the 5v5 grouping and then just hit an Ash arrow on anyone. Look at the item timings coming through from IM. Infinity Edge, Triforce, and the cooldown reduction boots on Expression. 3 items on Ash. It's definitely team fight time. They've been tuned for it. They went for it with their first buy, and if we're talking about Frozen and the Zhonyas. You just want to force a fight right now because the lead is oppressive. It's 11,000 gold at 27 minutes.
Gangplank not going to pick up any more big ticket items at the moment, and trying to control these side minion waves right now, but Cube threatening a tier 1 at the very least. No one in the top lane to deal with him at the moment, and IM just doesn't have the pressure to really answer this right now, so it looks like they will give up one of their tier 1s. In fact, their first tier 1 of the game.
Not quite perfect game, because we are seeing the second dragon actually coming through. It was only this first dragon, of course, was taken by the Dark Wolves, but maybe we're getting a window into why we haven't seen much of that, Jace, because specifically if you miss those timings, whether it's pushing or just really getting your items early, 0, 5, and 3, this Jace just never going to be relevant on the damage front.
That is too bad, because of, if you guys want to see some impressive Jace plays, and they really are mechanically impressive, you can look up Nara Kyle's Jace highlight videos. You can see just how good this guy is, but hasn't had a chance to show it this game. And now LZIM looking to hit that arrow. They get Shelly, but is there going to be enough follow-up? The answer is yes. Frozen gets right in there. Tucson just tanking out that turret as best as he can. Going to use his repel to get out of it, and Tucson still going back in. Cube will pick up a kill on that one. Ignar low, but Expression here. Expression looking for a little bit more. Can he chain the kegs together fast enough? Nope, just going to flash parlay. Why not?
Yeah, we've got a really big crit onto Kyle. It was 1,200 damage from the keg link. Then there's the flash parlay is enough, and this should be the game for Longzhu IM.
Should be indeed. They're pushing forward, still have that Baron buff. Cube trying desperately to delay, but there's another 900 damage onto the Hecarim, and here comes Expression. Cube's pretty fast though, but it's not going to happen before the Nexus explodes, and that'll be game 1 to Longzhu. Incredible Miracle.
Finally a return of carry top lane from Expression. The carry top lane from years ago gets the Gangplank on 5:15. Everyone knows how scary that is, whether it's SOAS, whether it's GBM, and now it's Expression. The damage in the late game is insane.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. And what do you do with your Dark Wolves now? Because I think you have to ban Fiora and you have to ban GP just so Expression doesn't get them, but that opens up a lot of other picks. You know, for me, Ignar was really the standout player of this game, though, set up a lot of those great engages.
And then it's the headbutt away from the Baron. It was actually looking like a 50-50 Baron steal potential, but the headbutt did a lot of work. The worry for Dark Wolves, comfort in the mid lane, Nakayo, now Kyle on Jace. Cube loves the Hecarim, Blind picked it in the previous series. The comfort champions you lose, maybe it's time to go to that extended playbook, because playing for comfort just got outfought, outthought, and outcomped by Longzhu IM.
Absolutely, and so we are in a best of 5 as a reminder for this promotion series. 2 more will need to be taken by Incredible Miracle to once again maintain their position in Champions. They're always there, Papa Smithy.
Gatekeepers are looking pretty damn impressive, at least in game 1 of the series.
That's right. Well, we'll be back in just a few minutes to finish up this best of 5. See you in a couple. Welcome back to Promotions here in Korea. We are about to head into Game 2 between Incredible Miracle and Dark Wolves. Interesting times. Incredible Miracle looking very dominant in Game 1. It's what I expected, Papa Smith.
It was certainly the quintessential veteran pro team versus upstart challenger team, where the pro team just looked ahead in every. I think their pick ban phase was better. The fact that they got Gangplank was already a surprise. And then they just played out their win conditions exceedingly well. It felt like they hit all of them, barring maybe some indecisiveness around the Baron, around 22 to 24 minutes, into what was thoroughly a straightforward win for Longjuaya.
Yeah, impressively getting that 18-minute inhibitor too. They did overstay a little bit right there, but the play to take out 3 consecutive towers and the inhibitor was impressive.
And they made their own luck. They made their own gap where, even with mistakes like that, they were so much in the driver's seat that there was just no way back into the game for the Dark Wolves. And the fact that they played with comfort in Game 1 makes me wonder, what else do they have in this playbook? Because they need to show something vastly different to even trouble Longjuaya.
Yeah, and there's the GP ban right off the bat with Expressions. 8 kills in the last game. You better believe that's not going to be on the table. And the Fiora ban is going to have to come through too, unfortunately, for Dark Wolves, unless they want Expression to get his hands on that champion, and there it is.
It's worrying that Dark Wolves have to ban, specifically the Gangplank on blue. It feels like you need to be able to play that champion, at least from your mid laner or your top laner. It's a flexible champion to some degree. I personally prefer it in the mid lane just because in a short lane you can get away with just that slow farming style, but the fact that neither of them play it to the degree that they have to first ban it on blue is a worry for the drafting phase of Dark Wolves.
What is their last ban going to be? We still have Victor up, we still have Kalista up, we still have Azir up, all of which were banned in the last game, and it will be Elise. I don't know about that. Tucson wasn't very accurate with his cocoons in the last game.
But it does create one of those mismatches where you lock in Elise, and there's just not really a viable answer in terms of equalizing the early skirmish pressure. Elise has a lot of damage. You could maybe argue Lee Sin, but even then, it's a bit of a toss-up. So teams have moved to ban that champion. Kyle draws the expected ban on Azir, and Victor's open. Victor, again, was another hotly contested pick during the Challenger semifinals and final series, and now you at least have that wave clear champion, that reliable champion in the mid. There's just not a lot of answers, but Frozen actually is the main purveyor of see Victor, lock in the Echo.
Yeah. And we could see that come through. We could also just see the Diana again. Nothing stopping that one either, really.
We could also see the Lux that he tried in the last game of the season. Now, if you don't know, fans, very much associated with that champion, Lux, is Frozen. It certainly didn't work in their last game, but they come in such favorites that maybe you bring it out again.
And Dark Wolves, they did pick a lot of blue side Victor in those Challenger playoffs, first picking that champion quite often, but I mean, Kalista, Alistar, pretty much the expected combo. Ignar getting that Alistar once again, and he's been performing on Alistar for a long time this year. It's certainly probably, I shouldn't say certainly probably, it's certainly his best champion. I think there's not really any question about that one.
We've just seen the rise of Kalista Alistar over, say, Kalista Annie after Annie saw a couple of nerfs. Kalista Annie was definitely the go-to back in spring season. Now Kalista Alistar, next to maybe Kalista Kennen, are the really 2 strong Kalista duos. Alistar, if you're looking for the roaming game, and honestly with how well Ignar has played Alistar all season and specifically in the previous game, if you want to default to the Alistar, it's fine, or you can go for Kennen for the absolute 2v2 lane supremacy.
Certainly can. Elise not in the picture anymore, so it will be perhaps an Evelynn pick. Gotta believe that the Rek'Sai might be a little bit higher priority, but they could go for more disengage. With the Gragas pickup, we've seen Chelly play Vayne, so they could do something like Victor Gragas Vayne here. That would be a pretty big change in direction to what we saw in the last game that they played.
Yeah, but when you see the W from Victor, the potential for all the disengage of both Braum and Gragas, you're expecting squishy mid laner, squishy AD carry. So Varus Vayne would not be super surprising double lock-ins. Actually, no, not the Varus, I guess, because of the Victor mid, but we are expecting some form of hyper carry from the AD carry role.
Yeah, certainly are. And Yasuo being teased here. Yasuo frequently banned against the Dark Wolves in that final series by Ever.
Top lane Yasuo, Expression looking for some more carry tops.
think you just take the Diana here and save that top lane pick. You know Expression can dominate.
Yeah.
All right, the Echo.
This is what we like to see, the mid lane assassin. I'm always a bit wary to call an assassin because you more often see the ult used for utility defensively or for getting back to lane than necessarily for assassination. But this is a matchup that Frozen has tried twice. One time he really pulled off, the other time Team Comp kind of fell around him, but he really likes Echo against Victor, and I want to see him make me a believer.
So we will see the Ashe now locked in. So no Vayne, a little bit of a surprise there. Feeling comfortable with the Ashe into that Kalista matchup. Certainly a bit dicey, and they could just blind pick the very safe Gnar, but Maokai does provide a little bit more crowd control in the laning phase, especially. It's Hecarim again, Papa Smithy.
They love the Hecarim. Blind pick Hecarim all the days. That's what Cube did, to the point where that Ever versus Dark Wolves Challenger final, Hecarim got to first pick status, blind pick. They just love this champion in Challenger, apparently. I feel like every scene kind of has their trademark champion, NALCS. It's probably Tristana, a champion that really, you see a lot of Tristana there. Feels like, in the Challenger scene at least, still really highly prioritizing Hecarim on 515.
Yeah, a little odd, for sure. And what is Expression's answer? He found a good one in the Gangplank last game. He can always just run Gnar here and go for Black Cleaver, Frozen Mallet, and absolutely dominate the Hecarim in the split push.
Maokai would mean another setup CC for the parallel convergence, so maybe that will be the choice. It is picking for team comp, for team fight, rather than necessarily the jungle synergy between, say, a jungle Echo and a top lane Maokai, but it is the lock-in. Not the highest damage lineup from Longzhu IM, but if Frozen goes off, I think a lot of potential in this comp from IM.
Yeah, it's very interesting that Frozen ended this season of Champion Summer thinking that Echo was the answer to the victor. And again, another TP, and I really like the strategy from IM. Again, you're coming into this series where you know that you are the more experienced team on the map in terms of macro play. Well, just have a bunch of double globals available for your team. Take that Diana, take that Echo, and just play around making better decisions. I think it's a great strategy to keep a more amateur team at bay.
And when you're dealing with a champion like Ashe, whose initiation, whose pick potential with the Ashe Arrow is so powerful, but doesn't have the strongest laning phase in terms of harass, you are actually able to be flexible enough to take the cleanse. We've seen a few AD carries do this. Sunstar's doing it on the Kalista. You don't respect the trading as much from Ashe, so take that summon. Two Dark Wolves crews trying to get a chat going. The result is a bit of a muffle, unfortunately, as we're loading into game 2 here in IM. Low damage comp potentially, specifically if Frozen gets behind, but still, I really love to see people mess around, dabble with this Echo in the mid lane. It's 515, so the Echo changes, taking away the base values, really loading the damage and utility on AP. Makes it a really interesting proposition for Frozen.
Right, and you know, we look at not that many players playing Echo. Rookie on IG, notably like the big, scary Echo mid player in the world. And he's shown that you can do a lot of work on this particular champion.
If you haven't seen some of those Echo performances, go to the highlight videos, because my goodness.
Echo versus Yasuo with Rookie, you're welcome.
That's the best.
There he is. There is Frozen as Echo. Got himself a nice little Echo sword. Is it a bat? I don't really know.
I'm a really big fan of the new skin. I don't think it's available in 515, but he has a cricket bat in the new skin, which, you know.
What's it called? Terrible Sport Echo?
Excuse me. We've talked about cricket on this broadcast before, Monte Cristo. I don't like talking about cricket anymore.
I'm sorry. It wasn't soccer. You're right. It was cricket. I just made all the Europeans mad.
Wow. Equal opportunity discrimination from the American here about our beloved sports. What do you got against polo? You got something against polo as well?
No, I played polo in college.
Yeah, you would play polo. You named yourself Monte Cristo. Of course you played polo. Oh, dear. I don't talk about the cricket anymore. We lost the Ashes to England, so it's a bit of a no-no topic in Australia.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm sorry for you.
It's not good.
I'm sorry for your loss.
Put it in the not good column as commentators.
I guess. It's our Korean commentators, actually. They look like very confused animals.
I mean, this is a scenario where Longzhu IM are by far the favorites. That's pretty confusing if you've been following Champions outside of the promotion tournament where they are the gods of promotion.
They are, and they turned in a decent performance in that last game, certainly showing that they have a lot more poise in this Dark Wolves team right now, and we'll see that Hecarim head up to the top lane with the teleport. Maokai will be following him up shortly thereafter, so Expression choosing a very different approach this game than the carry approach, and we'll see what Frozen can do. I am very curious, but the crowd control and all-ins in this bottom lane, if we have 2 TPs down there, are going to be pretty scary for Chelly and Jelly.
Yeah, with the fact of the teleport as well, the fact that Maokai can teleport in with a targeted engage. Alistar, of course, has excellent engage himself. Even Kalista can help throw in and empower the Alistar to make a play. Chelly and Jelly, this bot lane that likes to play aggressive, that likes to overextend for an advantage. You cannot overextend against triple global, because remember Rek'Sai has a soft global as well, and Kalista Alistar, a very strong laning duo as well.
Well, just everybody who can come down there has some form of crowd control, major crowd control, AoE crowd control, in fact, so could be quite deadly if IM decides that there's going to be a time to 5-man stack into that bottom side and make an epic dive. That's what I'm hoping we see, Baba Smithy.
I'm looking for the epic outplays. Every time I see Echo mid, I expect them. We all saw the champ spotlight and thought, is it Faker time with this champion? We still haven't seen the Faker Echo. That's really the tantalizing one for me, the combination of player and champion that I really want to see go off in a top-level game. Maybe Worlds time.
Maybe Worlds time, indeed. We'll see how Faker feels about that Echo pick when that tournament begins in October. So Tucson just heading down for a little bit of checking in the enemy jungle right now. Kravevi on the other side. But he's going to know that after seeing all those camps cleared.
So the last time we cast together, I talked about a doomsday future where teleport mid lane was all the rage and it crowded out every other summoner. And we're seeing it again, we're seeing it more commonly, and it opens up split pushes like the Diana. I guess Echo probably has a deft hand and also doing some split pushing himself. I'm not going to ask you about future soothsaying just this time. What I want to know, Montecristo, is what do you do against the double teleport? What is the actual optimal way of dealing with these laners that can farm from range, even as melee champions like Diana and Echo, but don't take that combat summoner in the teleport?
I mean, you have to push them in, I think, is the answer to keep them bottled up in that mid lane, and you have to be very ready to roam. We've seen recently, actually, the QG versus IG series when IG went 3-0, even though QG was running teleport Lulu in the mid lane, and what IG was doing is just roaming faster with that Victor, keeping Doinb pushed up in that mid lane on the Lulu, and it became very effective. So push up, just motion down to the bottom lane, and if the Lulu commits, you're sitting there with Victor with an Ignite, and the Lulu is sitting there with teleport and dying at level 6. So
would you say the key factor there is a champion like Victor that has that immediate backline clearing with the one item? So of course Victor gets that Hex Core upgrade and will always have optimal pushing capabilities. But what happens if you're actually bottled up with a champion that doesn't have instant wave clear? Are you just at the whim of the enemy mid laner?
I think that's why you don't pick champions like that. I mean, if we look at the meta, you either are dealing with a lot of wave clear like Azira Victor, or you're dealing with, to a certain degree, teleport picks. So
I wonder if come Worlds time people try teleport Kassadin in this spot against a champion like Victor.
I think Kassadin is bad.
I don't heavily disagree, but there are other scenes that think he's really good. And with teleport,
he's so vulnerable to pushing, and he's too item dependent right now, in my opinion.
I feel like that is an argument that isn't solved or settled right now. I feel like the Chinese teams will find a way to make Kassadin a viable pick at Worlds. It's tradition, Montecristo.
I disagree with you, but we will see. I think they'll play him. I just don't think it'll be proved viable.
Well, they can make an argument for it. It just might be wrong. For the record, I also, as you well know, am very skeptical about Kassadin, but when you're talking about mid laners that can teleport in and create an impact, Kassadin's certainly near the top of the list.
As long as he actually has combat stats to a certain degree, and that just takes time to build up. So I think that's the big difference right there. It's the more immediate power of some of these other teleport mid laners. And Frozen not going to have too much immediate power this time with that Negatron Cloak first. Just a little bit of farming right here and using that phase dive to get out of some of those trades.
Jelly's actually motioned, but only defensively to relieve pressure from Kyle. Nobody in the bot lane. This is the meta we're in. Everyone leaves.
Yep, everybody shows up, throws some wards down, sees the Rek'Sai, walks away.
Communication around that must be crazy, because what do you reckon is the percentage time spent in a 2v2 for a support in this current meta? Maybe 30% the laning phase, of which 80% is during the first 5 minutes?
No, at least 50%. That's not true.
It is fun, though, even in solo queue. The fact that you're not shackled next to your AD carry as a support like Soraka makes this meta just that much more fun for the support.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot better from that regard. More dynamic to watch, that's for sure. But it does also create situations like this where Chelly has to go back and instead of overextending by himself while his support goes off on a warding mission, he's have to fall back. Frozen will be donated this blue buff quite easily. And there's an arrow heading up towards Xpecial. And there we go, he's going to come in with that Onslaught of Shadows. There's the Twisted Advance and the Arcane Smash to knock the members back. Xpecial has to use his flash alongside his ultimate to get out of that gank, so a bit of success there, but no Ignite used from Cube, not assuming he was going to pick up that kill, instead just getting the Summoner and saving that one for later.
Ignar looking for the tower dive.
Yeah, there's Ignar coming in, Chelly already with the Ignite burning onto him, and there we go, not quite gonna get it. Potion going down, and the Prey Seeker is going to miss. Tucson wants to go for this one. You cannot do that. Cube already there. There's the Ignite, and he's going to fall in a really questionable engage. Frozen and Kyle duking it out, but Tucson just giving up that first blood for free, and Ignar going to die too. Finally, we see Xpecial coming in. Are they going to be able to turn this around? Jelly wrapped up by the Twisted Advance. Frozen is here too. They're trying to go onto Jelly. Jelly's still low, but he's going to get that volley off. Xpecial's going to die to the Chaos Storm, and that is another kill. 4 for 1 in an absolutely atrocious play made by LZIM.
Such an overcommit, and just at staggered times. Right after the initial engage, Tucson goes in and gets blown up. Then we start to see teleports being channeled. Xpecial was so late in reacting to that engage. I'm not 100% sure whether he had teleport, though I believe he did. And the communication from IM was all at sea in that fight.
Yeah, absolutely awful. I mean, just starting there, getting overly greedy to finish off that kill, which they didn't quite get onto Chelly, and then just filing one by one into their doom. So that's going to be about 1,000 gold and a dragon advantage for Dark Wolves right now. I mean, Chelly low and just sidestepping the Prey Seeker, and this is where Tucson starts seeing red.
But I mean, he should see the Hecarim standing right there next to a Braum. Of course they're going to go in. The Ignite was still up. Good use of Summoners holding onto that for Jelly, and this is just comedy of errors from Longzhu IM. One by one they go. Maokai only now channeling his teleport with 2 members effectively dead as Cube. He's got all the gold. He should still survive.
Yeah, he definitely should. There's just not enough damage between the Maokai. Oh, arrow coming through again. To punish any overcommitment there, Tucson decides not to go so far in this time around.
But what, of course, was the most important factor there, Monte Cristo? 202 was that Hecarim newly bought the Home Guard Merc Treads. He probably would not have had gold for the parts of that Phage, you know, with the Ruby Crystal and the Longsword, and the extra items is why he survived that gank from Tucson.
Well, Cube getting that early start this time. So we'll see what he can do with a little bit more impressive laning phase and an early edge.
And let's see what Dark Wolves can do with a much better early game, much cleaner. Of course, most of that is the misplays of the enemy team rather than anything special Dark Wolves has done, but we're hoping that there's a series, or at least one game this series, where Dark Wolves can show us why they were the first place team in the Challenge League. We can Challenge League, as you mentioned. The big factor for anyone joining us late is that, of course, the league with the subs from the main teams is separate to the league that these teams fight in. So a lot of the talent is bottled up in, say, the Jin Air B team. Of course, Jin Air went on to win that OGN Challenger League too. But this is the talent that's left over, and they're just trying to make an impression against an IM team that blew them away in Game 1, but is certainly showing us why they finished second last in Champions.
In spite of the edge that they have, though, it's not too much for a 3-kill advantage. I mean, we're looking at just a little bit over 1,000 gold right here.
And in the late game, it's linear team fighting. It's, okay, we have a Victor Ashe, hit that arrow and going for the fight, and Frozen's got teleport, Expression's got teleport. Even Tucson can create headaches with the ultimate. So the rotational play might once again be the undoing of the Dark Wolves.
It's something they can certainly always fall back on here. And they should be able to deal with the Hecarim in the late game. We'll see whose job that's going to be. And there's an arrow coming through yet again.
Will it hit Maokai?
Not going to. Oh, no. He knew it was coming, though. Tucson saw it. So another miss right there. They're really just fishing for these enchanted crystal arrows right now.
This is real preseason 1 play, which of course leads us to wonder, once again, where do the arrows go? Where do they go, Monte Cristo?
Well, I think that Summoner's Rift is on top of some mountain if we look at the new art for the Rift in the background.
Yep.
So I guess they just fly over the land at a very high elevation until they hit another mountain.
Do you think there's a mountain with just loads of Ashe arrows? Speaking of arrows.
Yeah, Sonstar going to have to flash out at this one. Can he hop away in time? And there's an explosive cast, not going to finish him off. Cube is there, though, with the TP play, and that's going to be secured. Expression can't follow up. And Ignar going to get dove underneath this turret, and that's going to be another kill for Cube.
And Hecarim is now massive. Throw out what I said about the nerfs. When you had this massive early start, when the Triforce is a snowball Triforce and you can get tanky much earlier, all those things are out the door. It's just like if Sejuani shows up with 4 kills in the early game. You can be that force so much earlier.
Well, Tucson just going to decide to die too here as they will dive him. He gets a little bit greedy when there are still 3 people there. Tucson playing very disrespectfully this game.
They should just be trading on their superior macro play, Monte Cristo, but they're going for very questionable micro skirmishes and getting punished, as they should be.
Yeah, absolutely. And now Expression has to deal with this very fed Hecarim, and he doesn't have any armor. He's going for the Righteous Glory first.
Yeah.
So there's not really a way he's going to be able to stop this split push. We haven't seen a lot of good TP play, and Dark Wolves, they took advantage of that TP timer. They had an edge on that particular ability, and they used it. Expression's late TP kind of rippling out into the next play as well.
1,700 gold is the lead between Hecarim and Maokai. And remember, Maokai's building for teamfights. He's building that Righteous Glory. He's well behind in terms of stats and just really can't deal with this Hecarim. And maybe there's a timer on this game to some degree, because this Hecarim, someone's going to need to answer. Maybe it'll be Frozen when he finishes the Zhonya's, but for now, this Hecarim reigns supreme in the split push.
It definitely does, and Dark Wolves trying to snowball this advantage, moving that Ashe to the mid lane, setting up for a very nice siege, and the wave clear just really isn't there for LZIM. They have Time Winder, and that's about it.
Yeah, the Q from Echo, much like Diana's, is decent wave clear, but you need to have something to support it, and Kalista does not provide that. Maokai, I guess, maybe has the base between the sapling and the Q, and of course the Echo wave clear, they can maybe clear wards, but Maokai's not grouped.
Yeah, Ignar just going to come in with a zoning headbutt. Not going to work, though. Frozen coming in with the parallel convergence. Tucson already there. Curvavy is the first to fall, and now we see the TP from Expression. Cube already here, though. And what are they going to be able to do with this one? Ignar not going to fall, so it's a 1-for-0. Can they actually save the turret? A lot of Dark Wolves members still at max HP.
Exactly. Specifically, the Ashe as well has the poke. Doesn't have a lot of mana, but Cube being full health.
Tucson's going to come back in.
Risky.
Here he goes, parallel convergence. They're going to catch out Nara Kyle right in the front line. There's the Hecarim ult, though. And how much are they going to be able to get? Big death ray across the troops. And Chelly nearly going to fall thanks to the chrono shift. That was a great ult from Frozen.
Yeah, really big damage. You can see he's been practicing this champion because his mechanics are very sound on Echo. And it's only an Abyssal Scepter Sorcerer's Shoes Echo. But finally we see assassination potential from that ult. But that was crazy burst damage.
That was a very good ult from Echo. You usually don't see them used effectively.
Or even aggressively.
Yeah, aggressively, yeah, effectively. And that time he bought his 4 seconds. Let's take a look at this fight once again.
Gets the shield as well, which is the important factor, but wait for the use of the ultimate. That's the big factor, of course. Gets the kill on Alistar, but wait for this Echo Chrono Shift. Huge burst damage. There was a turret shot as well, but they take down Ashe, and that actually does buy them extra time with this outer mid turret.
It's always a mystery to me, the Echo players who can hit that, because it's so hard to tell in a team fight where your shadow is.
It's hard enough to keep track of, say, the Orianna ball for some team, that a shadow that can really be overshadowed, which ironic to say, but could really be just a hard thing to keep track of graphically in a really busy team fight with lots of AoE ults going off. Allows plays like that, and it was only level 10, now is level 11. That burst is only going to get bigger.
Another Dragon over to the Dark Wolves will be uncontested by Incredible Miracle. They're looking to make up the gold deficit right now by killing the top lane turret.
Look at
they
the
have an
difference,
advantage.
Hecarim versus Maokai is just unbelievable difference in items.
Yeah. Righteous Glory compared to Trinity Force. Home Guard Merc Treads. They're going to go for a pick onto Chelly right here. Not going to get it. Ignar actually bounces Chelly away.
Have Dark Wolves learned about fighting against this Echo Shadow? Initial impression is yes, but bigger sample size required.
Yes, much larger sample size. Dark Wolves going to push in, take the mid tier 1 and find themselves with a very healthy 4K gold lead. Even though they did trade turret for turret and they're starting to stack those dragons. They've got a couple of them early. They're going to be hitting nice timing if they want to go for 5 stacks on that dragon. And LZIM, they've got to do something here because their composition, relatively low damage, and they're already behind.
And the old meta, the Maokai top, the pure tank top laner, this is where Hecarim rose, this is where Hecarim can still shine. Of course, a lot of that is because his item timings were hilariously accelerated. 20-21 minutes is when we often see just the Trinity Force. You know, if you're going to skip out on the Merc Tread home guards. But got both of them completed. It's more of a factor in team fights with that big burst damage from the home guard and the Trinity Force than even the Maokai is with the Righteous Glory Rush. So Hecarim definitely looking uniquely, I think, maybe even singularly given where the meta is going with carry top laners, as a massive threat this game.
Yeah. No question about that at this stage. It's just whether Cube can deliver on that. One of the harder things to do in the current game is to effectively split push, even if you have this kind of advantage, without giving up some important objectives on the other side of the map, playing with enough pressure, yet still playing safely enough that you're not collapsed on as you try and push towards a tier 2 or an inhibitor turret. So that's what Dark Wolves need to show now.
The fun question is, what does Echo versus Hecarim in a split push situation look like? Because the Maokai doesn't look like he's going to be relied upon to answer. Maybe if he's just sitting under his turret wave clearing, he'll do fine. But I feel like at some point we will get that scenario where Teleport Echo, who doesn't have necessarily a load of items in gold, but is doing just fine for himself in Frozen, will go against a fairly free-farmed fed Hecarim. That will be just interesting to watch.
Certainly will. So TuSin helping out with some wave clear in the mid lane. They just want to make a move right now, see if they can finish off that. Yep. No, phase dive. Easily able to dodge that one out. Seeing if they could perhaps take the last few hits on the mid turret. See right now, IM just trying to apply pressure and avoid these fights. They have 2 teleports up though, so they could try and pick up some kills onto his side lane if they so chose.
Let's return to the no damage argument against the Longzhu IM comp. Remember, it is Echo and Kalista, and Echo's already shown and shone in terms of doing damage in a previous fight, but it is Bloodthirster first return from Sunstar. We've been seeing so much more Blade of the Ruin King into Hurricane Rush. The Bloodthirster, the safer choice, but now we're really talking about scenarios where Frozen gets the job done, or things look really worrying, at least until an extended team fight and the Hurricane comes through from Sunstar.
Yep. And now Dark Wolves will be grouping in the top side of the map, just completing their circuit of tier 1 turrets, and there's just no wave clear up here. Echo now coming back out of the base with some home guard boots, and Expression slowly, ever so slowly, pushing out on Maokai. Dark Wolves have to be careful though. They don't want to give up their mid turret. They decide to assign Cube into that mid lane.
It's not that they have to turret dive though. Sunstar can only do so much trying to even feign pressure. Chelly's playing very, very defensively after spotting TuSin, so they're not going to get this turret just yet.
LZIM just trying to buy time right now. They do see Frozen with a ward moving up, and Expression has gotten a little bit of a minion wave going here, so LZIM just trying to delay them long enough that they can trade. Here comes a TP.
Teleport from Maokai doesn't have home guards, no turret to return to.
And is he actually going to get over the wall right now? He has a really long way to run, and that means TuSin's just going to die. So at best right now it's a 4v5. Frozen just going to get punted out, and then ultimated by Hecarim, has that parallel convergence, doesn't even land for the shield. Expression chose a very poor place to TP to. There was just no follow-up.
They're just so defensive at teleport. The call must have been very scattered. I don't know if it's Expression's fault or the team in terms of initiating that fight. They didn't have the wards to do it. Now Baron started, and what can Longzhou really do to contest it?
Well, they still have Maokai, they still have Kalista. They're going to have to try and fight this one. Expression already down to nearly dead. But the members of Dark Wolves low. Can they actually finish this Baron? I don't think so. Tucson back up. So
Big
they
success,
delayed it.
though. Yeah.
They delayed it.
One death for delaying a 21-minute Baron is definitely pass marks from High, and that might have been the straw that broke the camel's back. That might have actually been enough to snowball Dark Wolves into breaking the base and taking this game. Look at that kill score, 12-3. Next Dragon in 45 seconds, still probably going to go to Dark Wolves, but only reason IM are still in touching distance is denying that Baron.
Yeah, and they trade 1 kill and a Baron denial for the mid lane turret too, so at least they get some gold here to keep them somewhat relevant in this game. But man, Cube's Hecarim is very scary. So is Kyle's Victor.
6-0-4, soon to be Frozen Heart to follow up the items that Cube had already purchased. Cube is crazy, crazy strong, and Frozen's going to have to make us a believer soon because it's really all on him. Specifically, the Hurricane still not done on Sunstar.
That's just Expression too. He has really not a lot of armor, not a lot of magic resist. He's just melting right now. And there's not really much that can be done about that until he can just simply get some more farm, some more items. And here we go, another Dragon. 23 minutes for Dark Wolves. We'll set them up for about a 35-minute 5th Dragon. That is a pretty nice timing for them if it goes late.
Worrying scenarios where you're talking about a Maokai melting to an Ashe, a 180 carry item Ashe. Remember, Ashe will definitely hits her stride in terms of damage, but it's much later than most champions, so very concerning that even this early in the game, Dark Wolves are finding a very fast path through Expression.
Shelly just getting free hits on the turret right now. The wave clear just isn't there for Incredible Miracle. Very slowly time winding the minion wave. Yeah, but that takes about 3/4 of the health of the tier 2 off, as Dark Wolves doing a very good job at snowballing out this game, but honestly, with LZIM's composition, there's not really a lot they can do to stop it.
Definitely a return to familiarity for Dark Wolves. They got away with playing aggressively. Okay, a lot on Longzhou IM in terms of mistakes. We see the W activated, but no initiation. They're looking for the turret.
Gonna get frozen with the arrow, and there we have a huge ultimate coming through. Has to use that chrono shift early, and there we go, grabbing Ignar out and sending him right back in to the melee. They take out Curvavy, but everyone's so low, they're definitely losing the turret now.
They won't be able to kite back to Baron, which they might have been able to do if all their members had lived, but in this scenario, they will get the mid turret, even tanking it up to get it a little bit faster. Probably didn't need to do that, but did it anyway. Won't get the top turret though, but objective complete for Dark Wolves, and Dark Wolves' control over Dragon was what really stood by him, as even in their one loss in their 3-1 win over Ever in that Challengers final, they were very on point in terms of Dragon control, and they've basically been gifted that because there's been no pressure on the map from Longzhou IM after that really ill-advised 1-by-1 skirmish earlier in the game.
Oh, just such a puzzler though, because Dark Wolves, they haven't really shown a lot of ability to play from behind. When you give them these early advantages, they can be punishing. They can just shove these waves through and set up for it. And if you're IM, all you have to do with 2 teleports is sit there and wait for them to make a mistake. There's no reason to have such poor dive play like we saw in the bottom side of the map earlier, and now it's very difficult for them to win this game.
Teleport hits its stride much later than other summoner spell combinations. So when you're running double teleport on a champion like Diana, on a champion like Echo, a couple of items in, you just set up those scenarios where it's lose-lose for the enemy who just can't react. There's no way to out-rotate a Rek'Sai, Maokai, Echo triple teleport trio, but they managed to find themselves in such a hole where they just really aren't able to set up any minion pressure because they're just out-dueled everywhere by the Hecarim.
Very difficult to figure out what to do in that particular situation when they've already made the choices that they have and dedicated themselves to what in the first game was a very effective double teleport. Now they could still wait until the late game, but even then their late game damage is not particularly impressive.
IM have dictated this series. In game 1, aggressively. In game 2, dictated their own loss, you feel like, at least at this point. Certainly the hole they find themselves in 26 minutes in.
Dark Wolves, if they want to keep it up though, have to make this lead even bigger. They're still waiting for about another 3 minutes on a Dragon, and we haven't seen that Hecarim split push be set up very effectively. They're not getting the deep wards in that they need to really pressure tier 2s right now with this super fed Hecarim.
Actually, from what I've seen of both Ever and Dark Wolves, Ever has been the better team at pushing up aggressive wards. They were good at getting picks even when they were behind in games. Dark Wolves feels like they played pretty much the deathmatch style, looking to force fights. Teams more willing to opt into fights in the Challenger series than they are in Champions, which is traditionally a very defensive, objective-focused league. And so they just haven't really been a team that's been able to identify that as a win condition. You wouldn't say their side wave control was above par compared to any other team in Korea.
Yeah, certainly not. And there are just no wards in the IM jungle now, and part of that has been good pink placement, as we can see from Incredible Miracle, just laying those down, especially in the upper jungle. But Dark Wolves has been trying to set up picks in the mid-river brush. They haven't really had any deep warding missions in, and this is actually stalling them out right now in a very concerning fashion. There's eyes on Dragon for IM. We see Maokai getting farmed. They're keeping all their turrets up right now, so this is buying a significant amount of time for Incredible Miracle.
When we see these lower placed teams play against better teams.
Uh-oh. Hecarim may be in a bit of trouble here. Cube actually pushing too far forward. There are 4 people in this side of the jungle. They know Cube is alone. Oh, they could have made a play right there for sure.
They must have just guessed that there were more green defensive wards than they actually were. Maybe they outthought themselves. There's a teleport.
And here come the TP. Sunstar already there. Jelly going to pop down the Glacial Fissure. Get a knock up. They're going to try and back off. They force Cube to use that TP, but 2 TPs already used by LZIM. And I don't know why you'd make a play on the mid lane. There's a Chrono Shift getting Frozen a little bit of health back. Now, can he actually live? They're on to Jelly. Jelly not going to die, though. Expression has to flash into the Dragon Pit, and the chase continuing on the top side. Sunstar managed to die to Cube, but a baffling decision from Incredible Miracle. They could have absolutely made a play onto the Hecarim and chose not to.
And the worrying thing for IM is they're fighting on 2 fronts, and in the back front, the Hecarim is strong enough to go 1v3, kill the enemy AD carry, and still occupy the time of both the jungler and the support. And the other side of the coin, that's what Frozen tried to do, doesn't have the items, isn't snowballed, 15-4, and now the inhibitor down, and the 3-0 predictions are starting to look like they're not going to come to fruition.
Yeah, definitely not with this kind of gold lead and the base broken already. And we do see that Dragon going to be coming up right now unless Tucson can manage to take it away. Victor's still here, so there's an outside shot that they could actually pick this up with Expression spawning with home guards right now.
It is, however, Superman's pushing in mid, but for now they're quite equalized, not going to be hitting onto the Nexus turrets anytime imminently. Ashe is coming from spawn with most of a Last Whisper, but Victor certainly will not be at this Dragon if it started now.
Yep, and here we go. It is going to be started. Now how fast can they burn it down? Frozen doing some work on that, but it's still going rather slowly. But with the Kalista, there's not going to be really a chance of a steal right here as it gets full.
Oh dear. Now that was a mistake. You can talk, Monty. You're not on camera, but Monty was in a daze as he watched the Dragon be stolen by a volley.
A volley? I mean, Smite was up. Ren was up.
Smite was used, actually.
Interesting. I mean, I am just absolutely falling apart here, and there's a Baron taken by Dark Wolves.
You never want to say that a team engineered their own downfall. You always want to give credit to the winning team and say it was their plays, but IM has really made this game difficult for themselves, at the minimum.
Yeah, certainly. Dark Wolves has kind of run with it, but IM just tripping multiple times in the race here. This promotion match, and this isn't the IM that we normally see strong IM in the promotions. There were some worrying signs last game, but it was still a quick one. But now, Dark Wolves coming back and looking like they're going to be able to easily close this out.
The late game mistakes from IM came so much earlier in this second game of this series, and they've been their own engineer of their own downfall as far as we can tell, and now Sunstar, Bloodthirster Hurricane, about 10 minutes too late. And Frozen's been doing his best, but it's pretty much a solo hand when it comes to even occupying the backline because Maokai is nothing to talk about.
Yeah. Well, here comes the siege again. LZIM is going to have to fully engage to break this if they want to have any hope of continuing this game of League of Legends, but Victor in the mid lane right now.
Hecarim's basically a god on the
Yeah.
side.
Just the backline threat is absolutely massive.
They'll take this turret. It's another outer turret. Minions are pushing aggressively. Of course, the mid inhibitor's been down for a while, and they'll keep pushing. It's slow, but it's thorough and it's effective play by the Dark Wolves.
Yeah, why not just go for this right now? Hecarim just staying out of sight for as long as he can. He absolutely has that opportunity to get a good ult over the wall if he can find a target. Meantime, Baron Power minions doing their job, and somebody's going to have to go deal with super minions in the mid lane eventually.
Look at that cannon smashing away. Baron Cannon Minion is always the MVP of these sieges.
It's already done maybe 10% of the turret's HP.
Look, Ashe has 600 range now. Doesn't have flash available, so has to be very defensive in her positioning. But you know, doesn't need to be defensive is Cube, who's pretty much looking to try apply pressure all on his own.
Right, and make sure that those Nexus turrets are going to take some damage. Tucson actually gets massively chunked by the rampaging Hecarim. And try and kill him right now. He has to ult out of the base, so a bit of an overcommitment. Now they got some damage onto that turret.
Remember this turret, these inhibitor turrets do actually have a life gain if you leave them away, so they really want to come away from this siege with the inhibitor turret, and the MVP is doing pretty good work. There's Baron Cannon Minion. Oh, there's a second one. It's all over. Twice the pain.
Cube just waiting for his TP. No, he actually is going to.
Someone should be defending these minions.
Yeah, trot out of the base. Somebody needs to zone him out, absolutely. Kervavy's there, and Ignar on the front line going to pop his ult early. Kervavy gets caught actually in the back. Remember, there is no Hecarim here right now. Arrow comes through, they catch Frozen. Zhonya's Hourglass triggered, and he's going to die shortly thereafter. Nice chrono shift actually gets out of that fight. Ignar on his way back in right now, and are we going to see Cube here? Yes, he finally enters the fray. And Sonstar will fall to Jelly for a double kill, and now this should be the end of game 2. Dark Wolves going to tie up this series 1-1 in a 33-minute game, and they were pretty dominant here from start to finish, but LZIM making a lot of errors.
Yeah, a lot of the same compliments we paid IM can be played to the Dark Wolves. Okay, IM gave them a foundation at the start of the game, but from there, Dark Wolves really ran with it. Okay, made a couple of errors in not contesting enemy red and blue buffs with some smart warding, but whenever they could opt into fights with the item leads they've been granted, mechanics are on point, team fighting was on point, and comfortable victory for this challenger team.
Yeah, so will that victor be allowed in the next game? I think is going to be a big question mark here, and I agree with IM's composition with their intent with the double teleport going into this series, but man, was it poorly executed in that last one, and Dark Wolves able to easily snowball off of that and turn it into a win here.
Yeah, they tried comfort in game 1, didn't work. More comfort in game 2 in a lot of ways, but man, the move from Jace to Victor really made a lot of difference there. It felt like Carl really ran the mid lane, even though Frozen opted into that matchup that he's tried to pioneer, this counter pick or pseudo counter pick, because I'm gonna have to call it pseudo, because honestly, it seems like the Victor's been doing more winning than the Echo.
Well, I don't really think that was Frozen's fault,
No,
but
that's fair.
we're going to be back with game 3 in just a few minutes, guys. See you then. Welcome back to Promotions here in Korea. We're going into Game 3. Everything is tied up 1-1 between Longju IM and Dark Wolves. Some pretty one-sided games so far, both directions, and we'll see how these teams adapt heading into the third match.
It's crazy to think that the Longju IM we saw in Game 2 was the same one that dismantled the Dark Wolves in Game 1. Felt like they really went astray very fast, and hopefully they can steady themselves, because it would be a crazy and sad thing to not see an IM team in Champions for the first time since what? I believe the second season ever of Champions, before you even started broadcasting for OGN, Monte Cristo.
Yeah, it's definitely been a long, long time. Incredible Miracle has been a staple of this scene, but you know, if the Dark Wolves are able to take them in a best of 5, they certainly deserve that slot here in Champions. Got a long road ahead of them to do it, but they've shown that they can at least take a very decisive game, and I am really going to have to clean up their team play, because giving Dark Wolf and especially a Hecarim those early advantages, it does not end well.
That's the crazy thing, is that it felt like draft-wise, IM did fine. They went to the same sort of win conditions with the double teleport. Maybe there's an argument they didn't have enough damage, but if the early game was executed in a different manner, things would have been a lot closer, and they had that late game trump card of the double TP. So I'd like to see them stick with basically the same idea, maybe up the damage a little bit, but it felt like the execution was by far the problem in Game 2, rather than necessarily the drafting phase.
Well, in this draft, Dark Wolves now considering, do they want to ban out Victor, which they banned out in Game 1, or Kalista? They are going to ban out the Victor, so Elise and Kalista still up. And we will see that Elise first picked once again for Incredible Miracle, but this will open up the chance for a possible Kalista pick here from the Dark Wolves.
It's fun to see Kalista, you know, coming into these drafts, being available after the bans, after being basically pick ban status since her release. Such has been the furor and popularity of the that particular Kalista pick. So interesting to see if Chelly does pick it up. Chelly and Jelly with the Kalista lane will be fun. We'll say those names a lot, given that Kalista often plays around her support.
Yeah, do you just go ahead and take the Alistar-Kalista combo here? You do not have to take the Lee Sin that early if you don't want to, but instead it will be the Braum, once again taking all 3 games so far by the Dark Wolves.
Always risky to open up a second Kalista pick from a top-level AD carry like Sunstar, but that being said, Sunstar didn't really make much happen, opted into a very low-damage build. Blade the Ruin King by far is the most common first item pickup, and against a Hecarim, you'd think the defensive utility of the Blade the Ruin King active was more than the extra sustain or overshield provided by the Bloodthirst. So it feels like you're still going to get burst down, but it's a return to Kalista for Sunstar, but this time with the pick support rather than necessarily the playmaking. So I guess both playmaking, but just a little bit different in the Thresh.
Yeah, and we've all seen, of course, those impressive highlights of Ignar's Thresh play, and he'll be mixing it up this time. Alistar will be falling through the draft for the first time in this series. So Dark Wolves now, where are they going to go with this? They could go ahead and take that Lucian. Didn't have the biggest success with it in game number 1, but it has been a staple pick for Chelly.
The only reason we can speculate that Lee Sin and Braum were taken so early in the draft, I mean, Braum, understandable given the power of that support, but you pick jungle and support if you want to go in full counter pick mode. You want to see as much information as possible before you commit to one of your core laners. Lucian does have a good laning matchup against the Kalista, and Sunstar didn't cover himself in glory like we mentioned in the previous game, and we should not be surprised if the blind pick Hecarim continues.
More Hecarim. I mean, we've just seen so much of this from the Dark Wolves. And with that Rumble ban, it seems like that's just where Cube is going to go until Hecarim is taken away or banned in this series.
I mean, Rumble, Gangplank, Fiora, all off the board. I believe Gangplank and Fiora both can do painful things to a Hecarim. The carry top laners feel like they are the way to push past this Hecarim to really equalize his weak laning phase. I'd love to see a Nocturne, but I don't think it's time.
I'd love to see the Gnar. I mean, if we look at the way that IM played in Champions, the Gnar was frequently banned against Expression. We know it's one of his best champions. We know it's a great matchup against the Hecarim. That's why I was so surprised to see the Maokai in the last game, because we know what Expression can do on this pick.
Yeah, Maokai's the even laning matchup, maybe even can fall behind a Hecarim after a couple of items, but Gnar is the one who can build Frozen Mallet, hell, pile on with the Black Cleaver and really boss around a Hecarim. So looking for the lane supremacy. Expression did get his hands on the Gnar a bit towards the end of the season with mixed results, but the first performances and the subsequent bans showed that this is definitely one of his main meta champions, because this guy still does love to move over to the likes of Jackson Shyvana when he gets the license to by his team.
Well, Diana will be blind picked here for Frozen, so going back to the champion that saw him a lot of success in the first game. And so what is Jelly's answer going to be? Jelly for Kyle, I should say, did take the Jace in game 1, but that was a blind pick Jace. And now we're going to see where he goes with this. At the Azir band, the Victor band, you know, the poke champions, Varus and Jace, that we know he plays, not great here, so the Orianna probably the safety pick.
Of course, this is famously a lane that Diana does well in. This was always a lane where Orianna had a massive advantage pre-6, and then it ended up being Diana favored. The Jace, honestly, in lane did fine, but they're going to stick on the Orianna, so as I was trying to mention. First 5 levels, excellent for the Orianna, can boss around, deny some CS, chip out, but now in the teleport meta, that doesn't really count for as much. Chipping out of Diana is almost meaningless between Flask, 3 potions, and then a teleport back to mid lane, and then this lane always becomes Diana focused after 6.
Right, Frozen showing he can play defensively early on, not worried about missing a few CS as long as he can stay alive and just keep the pressure off of his turret in that laning phase. Did pretty well against the Victor, not really losing his turret so easily in that particular matchup. And Kyle opting perhaps for a cleanse on the Orianna here. It's a bit different considering that he really only has to worry about Cocoon.
I mean, if you have cleanse, it means that TuSon's probably not going to bother to gank for maybe even put in a second point into your W. Don't even take E, the CC Moonfall effect, if you are the Diana. Just power farm through the lane.
Yeah. So not a lot of threat here. We'll see what these two teams can do in game number 3.
The clap is what is being put forward rather than necessarily the cheer and the voices. Some playful clapping by the Dark Horse fans who honestly should be overjoyed. They have picked up a game against the champions gatekeepers in IM, and IM have returned to a comp very reminiscent of their successful Game 1 comp. So can they just tone down the misfires in the early game and just power farm their way to victory this time out?
Yeah, very all-in composition too, with Kalista and Diana both approaching that back line, and Cube really going to have to do a good job of zoning out these carries from Incredible Miracle if they want to see some success here. They have a good amount of shields, but a little bit atypical of a Dark Wolves game, just not going for any kind of big poke.
Honestly, Hecarim focused again. Put the ball on Hecarim. If he gets big like he did in the previous game, between his damage and the Orianna damage, it should really boss around a fight, but he's the true ball carrier. I guess there's the potential that Lee Sin can also get in there and mess with the enemy team, but Hecarim focus is what got Dark Wolves this far in the playoffs, and they just go for it again.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if Cube can take that early advantage. Definitely going to be a lot harder. We are going to see standard lanes here, as Expression will get that favorable matchup versus Hecarim, and we do see the pings going down. A little bit of a ward there by the Gromp, but nobody from Dark Wolves showing on it quite yet. So they don't know that this is coming through, but IM looks like they want to take Krugs all the same.
You'd think Dark Wolves would be heavily incentivized to look for a lane swap, just given how painful this Gnar vs Hecarim matchup is. Honestly, I guess it gets worse with levels, so maybe it's not that big a factor to nurse through the early game, but the reality is every item timing Expression hits, if he's on an even footing, is just superior than what Hecarim can put out. The first phage is better than any initial item that Hecarim can pick up. The Frozen Mallet or the Black Cleaver blows away the Hecarim, and you can go double laning items in Black Cleaver into Frozen Mallet and just completely blow away the Hecarim. So If Cube can make us a believer this time, maybe we'll have to start slightly re-evaluating Hecarim in this meta, because he was gifted a big lead in the previous game. He's going to have to carve out a much more difficult one this time out.
Yeah, and the big difference between this game and the first one is that, oh, level 2 gank coming on through. Curvavy coming there with the Lee Sin. Now, can they finish this off? Do you see the Orianna getting some clockwork wind-up hits? Frozen may have to flash here, and yes, he will.
It's a battle of holding on to spells, holding on to the Q, knowing it could potentially be flash, but defensive flash used by the Diana only has teleport now, so no other laning summoners, so going to have to be slightly more defensive in the early game. And if Kyle can get a freeze as the minion wave is now heavily pushed into his side, he's in a really happy spot here in mid lane.
Yeah, he is. Will need some help from the Elise to really do much in that particular instance, but
to cleanse Orianna pre-6, that doesn't sound like much fun.
No, just pushing out at the very least to break the freeze. But when we look at the matchup here, the Diana not going to have to go for the Zhonya's Hourglass first in this game, which means that the 1-3-1 can start a little bit sooner than in the last game, and hell, it proved very useful in game number 1 and a quick win for IM. So just going back to what was working, but the Kalista not the best in the mid lane in that 1-3-1, not the best siege, so not as ideal, I would say.
Let's try and uncover this cleanse Orianna we were talking about. It felt like, honestly, Orianna could have gone for Ignite, could have gone for Heal, could have gone even for Ghost for team fights. One of the reasons why maybe the cleanse not the worst idea is, let's think of a scenario where Frozen gets ahead. If Frozen gets ahead in this game, there's 2 split pushers that will be able to take out the Hecarim in the late game as Tucson and Lee Sin start fighting in the Lee Sin's jungle. But if there's a scenario where Diana gets ahead and can outduel the Hecarim, and Nara's always going to have that advantage, there's just no way to out-rotate this particular Longzhu IM comp. You just lose. So maybe it's just the ultimate safety and really putting them outside of a lose-lose situation, but still really tough as Lee Sin, he's got a lot of lane to work with here.
Okay, and now Expression going to get ganked a little bit. There comes the flash from the Gnar. He's in Mega Gnar now, but he is going to fall first blood to Curvavy. Tucson just there a tad bit too late.
And worryingly misses another cocoon with the flash onto 2 potential members there. It wouldn't have mattered, but not been impressed with the mechanical skill of Tucson this series. And honestly, he's a great jungle Nidalee player. His line skill shot play is usually one of the highlights of his jungling.
Yeah, very odd, actually, that the cocoon hit rate has been so low for Tucson, but another nice gank. Curvavy, you know, this is the champion, the Lee Sin, that I wanted to see him play because he does act so aggressively with this pick. And again, not the kill going to the Hecarim, but it is getting him ahead, and there's a nice hook, but there's not a lot of follow-up from Sunstar.
Definitely reminiscent of Rush, Curvavy, when he plays Lee Sin, which is a big compliment. Rush, specifically in solo queue, but even in competitive play, can be oppressive on the Lee Sin, and it's always fun to see Lee Sin players really get in there and mess up and play aggressively. He doesn't necessarily have the lanes to work with to do that, so it feels like he's almost on a solo pressure mission. Hecarim's never going to pressure a Gnar. It's cleanse Orianna, we don't need to talk about that. So if Curvavy's the one creating the pressure, then he's doing a great service for his team that needs time and items to really scale up to even skirmish, let alone team fight.
Yeah, and he will have at least a nominal amount of pressure in the bottom lane, but you can see Tucson already here setting up for the counter gank. They're anticipating that Lee Sin may be coming to this bottom side, considering how far pressed out the IM duo is. Tucson just going to back off, though, as the wave is reversing back towards their tier 1 turret. And Tucson will just go back to farming in his own jungle. No gank opportunities. A ton of sentinels around for LZIM.
So Cube, mentioned a couple of times already, veteran Hecarim player, just even in terms of competitive players, put more games into Hecarim than I think any other top laner in the last month especially, has really been still favoring that champion. Always interesting to see how veteran players on a champion navigate these like really horrible matchups. They're very well known. Everyone knows what Gnar can do in this matchup, what items he's going to go for, etc. Already throwing out any sort of Trinity Force hopes with double cloth armor. Is it going to be Ninja Tabi into Frozen Heart? Is that even going to be that helpful? Because honestly, if you see armor stacking, Expression can just look to max W instead. Just go for the pure auto attacks. I guess Frozen Heart does semi-double duty, but there's just so many options and item build paths for Expression to blow past Cube. So any information you get about a veteran player in a counter matchup, just intriguing to watch and gives more angles and thoughts to a champion that is on the fringes of the meta at the moment.
Yeah, and I mean, to take some of these advantages, he's going to need even more jungle pressure than he's already got, but we see the wards coming through right now. IM dropping one behind the enemy red buff while they see the Lee Sin in the mid lane, so safely getting a level of control over that vision.
It's been pinged out though, so it seems like they have knowledge of where it is, or at least where they suspect a ward has been put.
Yeah, they suspect it. I don't believe they actually saw that ward being placed, but they are going to come through and clear it right now. There we go. Actually, Jelly getting low. Has to use the Summoner heal, and Jelly will get grabbed. It's not a lot of damage, though, as the culling quickly used, but Lantern for Sonstar prevents him from taking most of the damage. Now, is Curvavy going to face check this? Expression is nearly Mega Gnar. He has his ultimate. Dangerous times for a possible gank. And there's the Cocoon coming in. Expression. Oh, man, they walked into a double stun. There's the Onslaught of Shadows, but they take down Tucson anyway. And Expression now on the run. What can he do? He's not going to make it out. Double kill for Curvavy here. In spite of the Sheen, there just wasn't enough damage coming in from IM, and in spite of the fact that they walked into a double Gnar stun.
It was crazy how good that looked for IM. It looked like Curvavy was slow on reacting. There was actually a lot of burst damage onto Cube before they even started the fight, but man, the re-engage was massive. And Expression is going for the very slow build into the Frozen Mallet, so with the lack of combat stats, they actually pull ahead in what should have been a lopsided 2v2 trade for IM. Look how long it is before Lee Sin finally reacts.
Wow, I'm very surprised that they actually managed to pull that off, but they focused the right target. Tucson didn't really have any HP with that Sheen building into the Rune Glaive, so once it's a 2v1, they're able to win that little battle.
And whether it's intentional or not, one of the big factors actually is that with the Onslaught of Shadows coming out, it killed all the little spiderlings, so Lee Sin held onto his Q, actually managed to hit an Elise, and hitting an Elise, specifically in spider form, is super hard to do with the spiderlings tanking your Q, but they pulled it off effectively. A really nice play from the Dark Wolves.
So counter gank there is successful, 1,500 gold. The advantage now for Dark Wolves in this game, and IM just can't make it work, and Cube again just getting further and further ahead in a matchup thanks to help from his jungler.
Worrying times for Expression. He needs that pickaxe, honestly. I think you focus the damage, and going the tank stats is, I think it's a misfire. It's still going to be the same item. I guess it's an outside chance of the Warmogs, but realistically it's going to be Frozen Mallet given what we know, but it was actually at a level disadvantage when that fight started. It was level 7 to level 6, but given the champions we're talking about, a level 6 Gnar in Mega Gnar form and an Elise, we thought it would be lopsided towards IM, and we're proven wrong.
Well, Cinderhulk Lee Sin will be the build from Curvavy here, so not building anything super aggressive. Went for the Sight Stun before even getting his enchant. So playing a little bit more of a defensive style, but he's making it work for him. Kyle will be handed over the blue buff right now. Frozen starting Abyssal this game. Not going to be too helpful in a split push, though.
Cube adjusting his build. Did start with the Shroud, but hey, throwing in that longsword. Trinity Force still coming eventually.
Of course, naturally. But he can get away with that right now, Expression. Not having the power to really control this lane. Instead, just moving back and trying to farm up right by his tier 1. Here we go, play again. Sonstar will get ripped out of the lantern, but hello, Curvavy, you're right there, and the burst, huge. Another kill for the Lee Sin, and they're going to transition this with the help of the teleport right into a dragon.
So Ignat actually walked into Lee Sin and still threw out the lantern, basically gifted the Kalista on a silver platter. That was just mechanically poor from the support, or just poor awareness from the bot duo, and Dark Wolves find themselves with the lead again.
Well, I mean, what we can say is IM is trying to make plays right now when they have no idea where the Lee Sin in. Tucson going to wrap him up with a Cocoon, but he has to flash to get out of the Braum concussive blows. I mean, they're just playing like there is no jungler. That last gank, they tried to make a play, but they didn't bother to ward up the lane. Weren't expecting the counter gank from the Lee Sin, and this time around, they're not playing like Lee Sin could be in the river.
Did not think I would say this statement as Tucson puts out a pink ward that was always going to die instantly, but we might not be seeing IM in Champions next season. It's an early proclamation, but the change around from game 1 to the last 2 games, or at least the first 12 minutes here, it's been massive.
Yeah, it has been very big, and IM has to start getting concerned. I mean, it's not an overwhelming advantage yet, and fortunately for Incredible Miracle, there's a lot of gold on this Lee Sin, which is not going to be terribly useful in the late game. But it's another instance where Incredible Miracle really has to play for a late game stage if they want to stay relevant.
Let's not be too linear on discounting the Lee Sin's impact in the late game. Of course, the kit and the damage certainly falls off, but with the Cinder Hulk and the percentage stack he's going to get in terms of health, if he just sits on Sunstar, who already wasn't killing any tanks in the previous game, if he just trivializes the effect of the Kalista, maybe he's just doing his job in fights with that extra gold. And Kalista is going by the Ruin King this time, which is, I think, objectively the best build for Kalista at the moment, even irregardless of whether there's melee threats on the enemy team. But yeah, Direwolves, sorry, not Direwolves, that's the Australian team I cast earlier in the year, but the Dark Wolves in a good spot.
Dark, dire, you know, they're all sort of scary, lurking in the forest.
They are indeed. Almost feels like I'm going to create some sort of fantasy faux pas and compare Game of Thrones to another fantasy series, but I don't know about any other fantasy series, so I can't do that. I'm not a big Lord of the Rings guy.
Yeah, you're not. Oh, face check here from Curvavy. Expression is low, but about to hit that Mega Nard. There we see the Crescent Strike coming in. Frozen wants this kill. He's going to flash over the wall, and there you go. Lunar Rush and another strike will finish it off. Ignar is here. Cube on the run. They want to kill Tucson. They're going to pick it up with the Ignite, so they trade jungle for jungle. Some fancy dancing around, and Sonstar wants this one too. Chelly going to get knocked around a little bit. Ignar doesn't have a follow-up hook or flay.
No culling available, so range damage from Lucian certainly at a premium. Curvavy far too aggressive in that situation. Needed to back out the moment, but still looked for a trade. Went aggressive. Bit of Lee Syndrome and taking the Q, and it's actually going to be punished a little bit, but no turret or objective to pick up.
Yeah, Frozen gets some nice shutdown gold, though, and that is a bit concerning. I suppose for the sake of Dark Wolves, it could have been worse if Expression had managed to pick that up, but, I mean, Expression really getting his turret chunked down to 50% already, and that is not what you expect from this matchup.
I mean, the build, as we're going to see the replay, Curvavy taking that Q, some very nice footwork, but was inevitably going to die with all the dives coming through from the other members. The fact that Cube got the exit kill was a really nice bonus for the Dark Wolves, but yeah, just coming back to the build, I mean, when you're going Ninja Tabi into Giant's Belt, even further delaying your Frozen Mallet.
There you go, nice flay, and Chelly still going to get some good damage down. Tucson now joining the fray, and Chelly will just walk back with a potion ticking underneath his turret. Sonstar, not a lot of mana, and nearly dying. No one, I guess, feeling like they should block the culling right there.
I'm surprised that Sonstar was confident enough not to heal in that situation. He was maybe 2 shots, perhaps even 1 away from dying. This series has been played around Frozen in the previous game and this game. He's got the shutdown gold, he's got decent items, his farm is always wonderful. He's a great mid laner, he's one of the reasons why he and Ignar were the ever-presence for this team, but they can continue to play around him, and Expression builds so damn defensively and delays the relevance of this Gnar counter pick versus Hecarim. I mean, Frozen's the big factor here. Can he make the enemy team pay? Because he's hitting his items at a good clip.
Yeah, he is, but he's got to start that split push, and with Expression losing his tower first in the Hecarim Gnar 1v1, he is in dire straits. We're going to need to get some wards around him so he can play aggressively once he gets the Frozen Heart and try and reverse this advantage that Cube has managed to acquire. Cube creeping up, though, on a Trinity Force, getting the parts for Ashin before heading back into lane, and they just don't have the vision control to allow Expression to push forward right now.
Let's be clear, when you're still slowly piecing together a Frozen Mallet, now is not the time to contest Dragon. If you're going to go for this lane-focused build, I think you have to make the most of it. Okay, the flat health along with your Mega Gnar resist will be helpful in a team fight, but they opt into and lose a team fight around Dragon in 45 seconds time. The negative snowball for IM could be gaming.
Well, the nice thing is, he did go for the Giant's Belt first, so that could have left an open door to some earlier team fighting, but not used appropriately. Sonstar now just trying to clear out this bottom wave, has finished the Blade of the Ruin King.
I think his item timing's a lot better this game, so is a threat. Single target damage for now, but we all know the Hurricane's going to come in quite comfortably soon.
Okay, Diana falling back. They are going to see Tucson moving into the mid lane. They have sufficient wards right there. keep one up for a few more seconds. And quick brush check with this Spider. And a pink ward will be cleared right in the river once again. There's really not a lot the Gnar can do besides just back off at this stage.
It is fascinating that a team that is so good, or has a player that is so good at playing Hecarim, obviously play this comp very often, is so poor at the flank wards. They're just not big on the advanced warding, as Cube still awkwardly winning the 1v1 against Gnar, which will puzzle anyone, but there's some good vision around Dragon, but not the traditional flank wards we'd expect for the big Hecarim teleport engage.
Man, at every turn this game, Dark Wolves has had the better wards on the gank. They've already picked this up. Kervavi's waiting. They know that there's a possibility of another play coming in, but now with Elise just recalling, Kervavi's just been one step ahead of Tucson all game so far.
And now it's the awkward scenario where you've been snowballed on as Elise, but you still go for the Rune Glaive, so it's very squishy compared to the tanky Lee Sin that has good base damage. Lee Sin never revealed himself. He actually hasn't been spotted out by a ward, so they have no information whatsoever as to Lee Sin's path.
Frozen going to get another blue buff for himself, and Frozen Mallet finally done, but Dark Wolves has their sights set on their second dragon of the game. Their dragon control in the last two has been dominant. We're going to see a hook come in for Kervavi. Nice damage. Poke coming down, but not going to be enough to take the dragon away, as Expression just not in a great position to TP in right now.
I feel like you pile on the Dragon Wing condition, Monte Cristo. After in the previous game, the only dragon that IM was in position to be picked up was stolen by a volley. It's almost PTSD around the dragon for IM at this point, because that game has largely become unglued around the bot lane and the dragon area.
Just amazing to me that their advantages that they should have had out of this laning phase. And again, it really hasn't been a draft problem, I feel, in either of these games from Incredible Miracle. I really think they've been given the tools to succeed, but it's been the misplays that have sealed the deal for them, at least in the last one. They're starting to bounce back. If they can take this turret, they're going to be in a much better position when it comes to gold totals.
But let's be clear, Direwolves blind picked a Hecarim, which already on 515 is unheard of in the competitive scene, and then opted into the Orianna versus Diana matchup, specifically picking that Orianna for team comp rather than for the lane, which famously is won by Diana as we move forward to level 6 especially. First 5 levels good for Orianna, but Direwolves are opting into difficult lane matchups, but I guess it's experience because they're pulling them off.
They are, and this is where you have to start thinking about swapping lanes for IM. You just took out the bottom turret. Frozen is at 2 items right now, and the Frozen Mallet is done. So it's time for this 1-3-1 to begin in earnest and get that Callista back into the mid side.
Only small argument you could see is that you wait for the Hurricane maybe to have the counter wave push against Orianna, who at this AP value has instant wave clear, but I think it's time to make the offensive move. It's time to unleash the Diana with Nashor's too, because if she's stuck in mids, trading far more than Orianna, who has so much defensive utility and still burst damage in the late game, you're just hurting yourself.
Yeah. No sign of that transition yet, though, as Sonstar just slowly moving through minion waves with his blade. You can see the big difference, though, obviously with the Gnar. Once you get that Frozen Mallet, you can just kite Hecarim forever. He doesn't have an immediate gap closer unless he uses his ultimate, and that is usually unwise.
Doesn't have the defensive utility of a Flash or Ghost, and then also with levels you get so much damage in your W, the percentage magic damage per third hit, that you just have to respect, and you can't be as overextended. This laning phase, Kyle's hit.
Nice cocoon. They're going to try and move on this one. Jelly actually going to get flayed back in. Box goes down, and Expression will pick up the kill, just roaming straight out of the top lane after putting on the pressure.
Kyle could have used his cleanse, relied on his support for defensive utility, but now he falls down. Has both summoners, but feels like Kyle could have made more. Didn't use his ultimate either, despite some heavy grouping from IM.
Playing it perhaps a little bit too defensively. Ignar, Sonstar, and Tucson back for round 2 in a pink warded brush. Here we go. There's the flash, but quickly dodged out of by the Lucian. Wrong target there from the Elise player.
Didn't draw teleport either. Cube just walked down. No dragon to fight over, so he's going to go pick up farm, but 1 kill. Not a big deal for the Dark Wolves.
No, not as long as it doesn't turn into anything else. And Callista once again moving towards that bottom side, getting very close to that Hurricane now. We'll be getting it pretty shortly as soon as the shop comes through. Frozen just sticking to his guns in the mid lane.
If he he does pick up the Hurricane and doesn't rotate to mid, that's when we really have to call out poor rotational play from IM. But it's slightly understandable when he doesn't have the range wave. We can just watch. We watched previously how long it takes him to get through a minion wave. It's still comically long at this present point.
Just quickly approaching that threshold, and Kyle, the blue buff, be happy with what he can do. And here's the recall from Kalista, and this is the moment where we see exactly where Frozen and Sonstar are going to go on the map. Gnar now actually transferred into the bottom side, and Kalista, oh, what? Okay. Going into top.
Feel like Gnar should be rooted into whatever minion wave or lane the Hecarim is in, especially with so much gold spent on basically shutting down the Hecarim. But
I mean, at this point, this is rather silly because if you have the Diana in the bottom lane, you can just use your support out of the mid lane to start warding up with your jungler and start really getting that 1-3-1 activated. Cube is really far overextended though. There's the E, devastating charge already used. Can they box in the pony here?
Probably not.
There we go. Going to get one hit off. Frozen in the enemy jungle right now, but Gnar pushing up onto a tier 2. Frozen on a desperate escape attempt through the enemy base.
Darkle's really over pursuing this kill onto Frozen. This
not
is
good.
Gonna get him, of course, is Frozen on the enemy side of the jungle.
Are
but
they?
Maybe not.
Expression right there. Expression near Mega Gnar form. They're going to try and get it. There's the Chilling Smite. Frozen still dodging out. He's got nothing to Lunar Rush to. And he's going to Lunar Rush actually to Kyle. There's a Shockwave missed. And the stun coming in. They do kill him in the end, but Expression takes a trip out on the Lantern before getting stunned by the Braum passive, and just a little bit more right there. But, I mean, they used a whole hell of a lot to get that, and they're going to lose a lot of minion wave onto the turrets.
Yeah, they lost a lot of pressure in top lane. They got the turret. They managed to keep pushing out, and Expression no outplaying the Frozen Mallet slow. And wow, Dark Wolves over pursuing a Diana that should just been left to back, lost them so much global objectives, and bit of a comedy of errors for the challenger first seed.
Yeah, well, that's sort of what we saw in the Challenger playoffs from them, is they do overcommit to kills a lot of the time, and Kyle now has the potential to be caught out. Here comes the TP, and Diana just going to zoom in on the home guards, gets the flank in, and Kyle's, I don't even know why you would flash there, you're just dead. And the double Lunar Rush with the Moonfall will clear him out. No chance of escape, and now the Baron, the target for IM here at 25 minutes.
Now a steal around an objective played a big part in Dark Wolves, closing out that game as confidently as they did previous game. It's all on Kvavi. He is actually well ahead in terms of items, but doesn't even get a chance to steal.
I don't even understand how the Rend is not actually finishing these objectives for LZIM. That's the second time where we haven't seen Kalista actually secure a dragon or a bear. Hi, Ignar. Would you like some turret hits?
Turret was so low that the pit pressure might have been fine, but neither team covering themselves in glory in Game 3.
Now they're going to transition this immediately into a dragon.
All of the gold leads in the bank, so these actually are very even teams in terms of items, but Dark Wolves playing defensive in terms of their positioning, understandable. They still don't have any aggressive wards. That hasn't been their modus operandi. Their defensive vision around lanes has been wonderful. You called them out on that previously, but when it comes to offensive wards to enable the Hecarim to do things, they've been at a premium.
Yeah, and now we have a situation where IM has the items they need to split push, and they have the Baron. So in theory, IM should be able to get probably all the tier 2s out of this Baron.
Well, they've thrown the playbook out a couple of times this series, Monte Cristo, so the theory might stay in the book this time.
It might. No TP, so Diana remaining in mid lane, at least for the moment.
Lucian has not been a big champion for Charlie this series. Fell behind in Game 1. Now, Infinity Edge into the parts of... What even is that visual bug? The parts of a very slow Phantom Dancer. This Lucian well behind in terms of items.
What is this Gromp doing?
It's really it's really, really angry.
It's not actually healing up right there. Go back to the Gromp.
Get him to the Gromp.
I want to watch the Gromp. All right. All right. Well,
on my screen, the Gromp was doing hilarious.
yeah, not on the actual screen that you guys were seeing, though, but it was just shooting everybody on the map.
Sniping.
Yeah. Okay, so we are Gonna catch up right now. And the pressure coming in to the mid side and the top lane.
Not that much pressure, though. They don't have that many ranged attacks. Oh, with the hook, though.
Gravy looking for a kick right there. Doesn't see what he's looking for, but Expression just chipping away with his ranged auto attack ever so slowly. And getting some work done onto the tier 2. Kalista moving back to push out the bottom lane, and they will be snagging themselves a fancy little blue buff in the meantime for Frozen. Tuzin's very patient. There we go.
Subservient to his mid laner, as every good jungler is these days. I mean, Expression's just really reflecting how strong this matchup is, because he had a poor laning phase and built super defensively, but you throw a Frozen Melt and some tank stats in, there's nothing Hecarim can do.
Okay, well, here comes the full pressure. They've finally gotten control over the side waves so that they can put on the maximum amount, and I am actually executing this very well. Baron buff no longer a factor, but they are going to get at least 2 of the tier 2s.
Breaking the base will be more difficult. Maybe if they can pick up a second Baron and neutralize Orianna's fairly impressive wave clear, they'll be able to do it. But with a Diana especially, split pushing is always going to be the name of the game. Doesn't have teleport off himself, but the moment he picks it up, there's just so many headaches, so many macro objectives for Dark Wolves to be able to factor in. Frozen's actually teleporting back on a ward.
Gonna tap him there. Sonic Wave.
Tap that Diana.
Tap that Diana. Sure that's what you prefer, Bob Smedley?
It was said. I put the words out there.
Frozen decided to stick around a little bit longer. Well, this game, I think you're right. Just the Baron is probably going to be necessary to actually close.
I mean, game 1 showed us that Dark Wolves, they struggle when there's so many macro objectives to consider, and most teams would in these double teleport, Diana split pushing metas, but there's just so much for Dark Wolves to stay on top of that you have to feel that being a challenger team, they're just not going to be up to the stead of being able to deal with the fiercely macro game rather than micro game being played right now by IM.
Yeah, you really can't prepare for this when it comes to solo queue very well, and it takes a long time as a professional player in a scrim environment to really acclimate yourself to this level of team play. So it is an easier, I would say, way to break less experienced teams.
It's just one of those scenarios where IM, like game 1, have full court press on. They have access to the Raptors, the Wolves, every camp that Dark Wolves have to pick up, and the war of attrition just can't be won by Dark Wolves. You can't wait out when your access to minions, your access to a real gold income, it's just not there.
Nope. Well, a couple more minutes until the next Baron. I'm going to do what they can here, but no need to overcommit here in the mid lane. Expression just cleaning out some of those pink wards. And Diana now pushing up, but this is what you got to do. Just maintain your vision control, maintain your jungle control until something useful becomes available to you.
Honestly, you're waiting for a mistake, because theoretically you're not going to actually split push an inhibitor turret. That's very, very difficult to pull off. So with the easy objectives barring the mid lane one pulled off, you're just looking for someone to miss position around mid and to rush that last outer turret, because breaking the base, very, very difficult to do in a split push.
Yeah, especially without Baron. So 45 seconds up until our next Dragon, minute 10 for the Baron right now, and it's just going to be a waiting game. We'll see if IM wants to go back for another shop before they start to group. One would think they would.
The grand waiting game.
It's very exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely is.
But I mean, this is more and more of what we see League of Legends becoming these days, having powerful split push with all of these more carry-oriented top laners has become pretty crucial.
I choose to interpret that as a backhanded compliment to Strategic League of Legends rather than your optimistic rotations, yay, kind of comment.
I like split pushing. It's hard to do well.
You like just everyone pushing for a while, waiting for a mistake?
And, you know, there's a counterplay in terms of players collapsing. You have to have the right vision to do it. It pleases me.
You say it in a way that sounds interesting, but I know the words that are coming out of your mouth, and they're not that interesting.
Yes, they are. No. I like it. I just want more Elixir of Ruin to be used. That's what I want.
Which one is that? Is that the one that gives the tenacity and the...
It gives more damage to turrets.
Ah, yes, that one.
The split pushing potion.
Split pushing potion.
I like that one. I think it's underutilized, personally.
I know you were a big fan of the AP Elixir and Thornmail, but now you don't need that, Monte Cristo. You just build more armor and you do sick damage with your Thornmail.
I liked the Elixir of Sorcery with the Thornmail. I thought it was funny.
But now it scales with armor, so you don't need the gimmicky 25 damage every, what, like 6 seconds or whatever.
Hey, if you have nothing else to buy, Papa Smithy.
In the previous meta, without the Thornmail damage scaling, I agree it was fun. Speaking of fun, I am finally feel safe enough to start the Baron. Kraven knows what's up.
What do you want from?
So are we going to see another 50-50-ish Baron?
No, I mean, he has a million Callista Spears in him.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay, there we go. Will be secured by the Ren this time. And we do see the Hecarimult used to escape right after the Threshold lands. No follow-up, and so now is the time for Incredible Miracle
To split push.
Frozen going to take that quick recall, head back to base, and Expression setting up his wave in advance. Void Staff and Zhonya's Hourglass.
I like this play, though. Look, they're finally going to be aggressive. They're really piling on the pressure with the teleport into mid lane. I think the dive is dangerously close to being initiated. Without Expression group, they don't really have a tank, though, so it's difficult to pull off, but always like it when the triggers at least looks like it's going to be fired, but no, I told a lie. Sunstar sees a massive minion wave, thinks, ooh, 200 gold.
They have to go get it right now, Bob Smithy.
Get it now. Doesn't even have an Avarice Blade. It's not an Nasus either, but still plenty of time.
The GP was banned, so
That's
we
true.
don't even get to see that. I just like to see the kegs just blow up an entire wave at once and then like 300 extra gold appear.
Which of the kegs are the surprise keg, the pre-placed keg, the keg you placed earlier? The kegs. I don't know, it's Nasus. Whenever I'm playing Nasus, whenever I see a big minion wave, I think of the stacks. Of course, they take
Why are
forever
you
to
playing
get,
Nasus?
because it's really good in solo queue. Nobody knows how to end a game.
Nasus is the most boring champion to play. You're literally just sitting there queuing minion waves the entire game.
Look, why do people play Cookie Clicker? Why do people play all these games? It's fun to see numbers go up, Monte Cristo. And when you see those stacks above 300, you're like, oh, baby, I'm doing it this game. Then you get kited and you're sad. But
I've never played Cookie Clicker, so I don't know.
I haven't either, but I hear good things from people that like numbers going up.
Okay. So, right now, just moving forward. The split push is going through. Nice culling. Sonstar will be able to heal up a lot of that, though, on the minion wave.
Sunstar's almost died to Cullen a lot of times this game. Calculated might be the word he'd use, but foolhardy's the one I'll choose.
That's been, I mean, to be fair to Jelly, he has had some pretty on-point cullings, hitting nearly every shot.
You need to be fair to Chelly and Jelly. The best duo name. Right up there with Piglet and Pooh.
Okay, oh, that's just an instant death off of a Thresh Hook that burst damage. Far too much for the Lucian to handle. It's out of position. The next hook not going to be quite so on target, but they will be able to crack this base and take the inhibitor. They may be able to see how far they can get with this. They do have a lot of turret damage with this particular composition.
Expression is grouped, so dive players are suddenly more open. Now in Mega Enough, I'm just zoning their out. It's going to be at minimum a second mid inhibitor, and maybe the game.
Yeah, maybe the game, depending on how far they want to push. It looks like they're not going to take any risks. 10 seconds for the Lucian.
It's actually quite hard to split push in the enemy base, so they probably should back away and teleport back.
Yeah, can't really break people up when they're all defending the Nexus. They're going to go for number 3, though. And it was already low. Expression actually did a lot of work on that top side already.
Fade away Q was very nice.
Up there's the Lee Sin kick, but Ignar not going to be the target they want. Here comes Cube on the TP, gets into the back line, and there's a shockwave, hits 2, but only Tucson and Expression. Meanwhile, Orianna just melts immediately. Kerbevi going to be frozen, second kill, and here we go, 2-man stun, triple kill right there, but that's not going to be a penta. We already have Callista taking 1. There's a quadra for Frozen to end this game. And they are going to be able to take out this last turret. They don't have minion waves ready to go, so they're going to have to just tank the Nexus turrets.
If they can do this, Expression's going to fall very low. They're going to get at least 1, but 2 might be tricky. Let's see how the trade tanking goes. 2 can, of course, repel to drop aggro. They should be able to finish the game. Still 10 seconds till anyone spawns.
Yeah, that's going to be it. And they will surround the Nexus and take game number 2, putting them on match point to make it back into champions.
So with a game and about 15 minutes of just poor play behind them, Longzhou IM returned to their Game 1 form, played much more impressively in the second half. Frozen Mallet being completed was the real big turning point, as suddenly Hecarim couldn't overextend, couldn't create pressure. It was unique in that Hecarim took the first turn and kept pushing, but when he was held in check, so were the Dark Wolves, and now 2-1, a comfortable lead for IM.
Yeah, Dark Wolves, very strange team. We know the emphasis they put on the Hecarim, but they don't actually ward so the Hecarim can maximize his advantage. It's a bit odd.
It's a fun thing where they ward smartly defensively. They stayed off a lot of ganks with smart wards, but never that forward ward for the Hecarim engage.
It's not the synergy not there between the jungle and support to roam efficiently to place those down. So we'll see if they go with the Hecarim for a 4th game in a row in just a few minutes when we get back. Until then, I am just going to be looking to neatly wrap up this series. Can Frozen have another good game on Diana like he has in their 2 wins so far?
On a game more than we might have expected, but I am definitely in the driving seat coming into the 4th match.
Well, just a few more minutes and we'll get into game 4 and see if we have the deciding match in this promotion match. Welcome back to the promotional tournament here in Korea. We are looking for our next team to be in Champion Spring. It's a lot like American Idol, where we judge them as they perform in front of us. Isn't that right, Papa Smithy?
And both teams have taken their turns failing, so it's a lot like American Idol.
I judge them both unworthy.
So would you say 8 teams might be the sweet spot for next season?
No, we'll just get some of the B teams from. We'll get CJ's B team and Jenner's B team.
I'm just happy to see a team like Anarchy come through, who at least are fun in how they are, like scattershot good and bad in the same series.
Well, we'll see. I mean, they've had some strong closures. In game 1 and 3, they really did close out the game pretty well. They took their advantages, and they came into tonight with that 1-3-1 split pushing double TP plan, and it's gotten them a 2-1 lead so far.
With Rumble banned, it feels like Cube, Hecarim all the time. And look, this guy has been first picking Hecarim as recently as the Challenger Playoff Finals, so he shows a lot of priority for the champion, but worked in game 2 with a massive snowball lead that was honestly granted on a silver platter by Longzhou IM, but been found out, and the Gnar, I think, should signal the end of the Hecarim first pick, but I've been proved wrong before.
Yes, and you know what I think? I think Cube is unafraid. I think he's going to take the Hecarim again.
Maybe Rumble won't. No, too late.
Spoke too soon.
Rumble Hecarim only. That sounds like the meta of Trace or someone a couple of months ago, but there's all these fun champions and soon to be the Juggernauts to really mix up and get in there. Well, I want to see Garen played unironically. I don't count Amazing J on Anti-Pacemaker.
That was terrible, Papa Smithy.
It was terrible. I smiled though.
Did you?
Well, now every time they get into Champ Select, he just hovers Garen and starts to swirl around in the booth, and that's fun.
He spins to win on his chair.
He does.
Gotta make sure that you don't get tangled up in your headset cord when you do that.
Real serious pro player problems.
That's why he has to go with the USB, the wireless headset.
That's risky. What happens if he can't communicate when the battery runs out?
It's all about the style points, Papa Smithy.
He says, talking about the rotations. To death last game. You don't like style points. You don't like flashy players. Or at least you're not a big champion.
I like flashy ceremonies and trash talk.
That's
what
true.
I like.
It's true. You are a purveyor of the top quality trash talk, which you can only find in Korea. And the TSM videos were alright too.
They're alright. So the Hecarim will finally be banned in this series. They finally did it. They got it banned. But this means that we are going to have an Azir available. IM did ban Rumble Lulu Azir their last game on the red side. And the Elise first picked this time by the Dark Wolves. So
And Kavadi showed what he could do on Lee Sin in game 2, so maybe he's going to get in and get aggressive. But this has opened up Azir for the first time. In fact, brace yourselves. I'm sure everyone's excited, but I think it's Azir versus Victor time in the mid lane.
yeah, I know. Everybody's going to just be jumping up out of their chairs to see that matchup, and we could see Braum for the first time taken by Incredible Miracle, so denying Jelly that particular selection, which he's had 3 games so far in this series.
And a lot of consistency in picks. Hecarim for Cube, Jelly picking up the Braum. Now both of them not going to be happening, so let's find out. Dark Horse, this might be the last game we see from this team in this particular promotion match. What else you got?
I've got to show something. Again, Cube did play Sunfire Cape Rengar and Maokai in the finals when he wasn't on Hecarim. So the Ashe pick locked in already for Chelly, and there we see the Azir.
Yep. It's going to be Nashor's Tooth Azir, which I think is a different data point. That's an insta-lock Vayne. Okay, that's fun. At least we're seeing the Vayne versus Ashe matchup, where Ashe very much wanting to play for picks and team fights, and Vayne just wanting to find her in an empty lane and take her out.
Well, interestingly, I am going for the composition that I thought Dark Wolves would draft in Game 2. When we saw the Victor Gragas come out, I thought they would take the Braum Vayne. Instead, they went for the Ashe. So it's a good composition for sure. A lot of peel, a lot of isolation for the Vayne. And they have the freedom to counterpick in that top side yet again.
Praying to the gods that we see the Bard. We're probably not going to see the Bard now. That's changed to Vel'Koz, sadly. Ashe definitely doesn't synergize particularly well with Annie, but Dark Wolves need to get onto this Vayne because, as you mentioned, Gragas for peel, Gragas for peel, Braum for peel. already committed to a mid laner, so you can't go for maybe the Varus that really is opened up by a kite back comp like the one that IM has put together. And Ashe Alistar doesn't exactly scream synergy either, but Direwolves, with the need to get into the back line, they're going to need to be on point with the teleport flanks, and that's just not the Dark Wolves we've seen.
Well, they do have a lot of chain CC here, but they're very reliant on Kyle to take advantage of stun into stun into stun to get a lot of Azir auto attacks off. It could work. They have a lot of pick potential between Elise, Maokai, and the Ashe Arrow, but late game could be a little bit tough with all the disengage to lock down Sonstar. And what is the top lane pick going to be? Could just go right back into the Gnar, get yourself a favorable matchup.
Does Gnar really work with this comp though? Gnar's about going in, and basically everything around IM can be going that way. But speaking of going in, you could go straight in as the Malphite, as your monitor falls over in ceremony at this Malphite. And the ground pounding that he might do this particular game. It's, man, Maokai versus Malphite. You don't really... You never saw this meta coming, but it's tank wars in the top.
Yeah, the resident sleeper top lane meta. Well, the Maokai, if we do get those standard lanes once again, that should be not very exciting. I'm waiting for Cube to switch away from Ignite right now. I'm really hoping he doesn't play Ignite Maokai.
I really do hope he plays Teleport Ignite Maokai. If you ever go on the backline, the damage.
Okay, we'll see if he switches it. He hasn't yet. He may make a mistake and not actually switch up his summoners here in the final potential game of this series.
This is the top Teleport Ignite Rengar player. Maybe
yeah,
it's
5 seconds. I'm waiting for this Ignite to change.
3, 2, 1. He's doing it.
He's doing it. It's going to be Ignite Maokai. Okay, guys.
Oh, he changed.
Oh, he changed it.
Dark Wolves fighting.
Dark Wolves fighting.
Someone had to do it, Monte Cristo.
I like the Dark Wolves. They're here. They took a game. They've made it competitive.
But are you still willing to dub this particular game Resident Sleeper? Because it is Maokai versus Malphite and Azir versus Victor. No interest in the solo lanes whatsoever.
And the Vayne and Ashe, not exactly the flashiest in the early game either. We'll see how the lanes shake out this time around.
It's worth noting that since the last time we saw only Azir versus Victor, there is kind of a new variable in the Nationals Tooth Rush. It feels like the extra attack speed really helps Azir in this matchup. Previously, what would happen, to give maybe some of our newer fans or people that skipped a good 2 months there of only this mid lane matchup, was that if Victor ever got ahead, the fact that he had the instant wave clear with one item, 1,000 gold upgrade on the Hex score, meant that if he ever got ahead, or specifically if he took the outer turret, he'd just instant wave clear. We saw Faker do this so often, and go and respond to other lanes. And Azir, a much more defensive-minded champion, would just be rooted under turrets, slowly wave clearing. And still has good wave clear without that item, but with the Nationals Tooth especially, so much early wave clear is that the wave clear is actually pretty even. So excitingly, it means the laning phase is even longer.
Also, you do have some good poke there, too. If you get a couple more auto attacks in with the Nashor's Tooth and the extra attack speed. So it's a bit different, but, you know, I think it's actually an interesting lane matchup, personally, just because it is so skill-based in how it actually turns out. And I like watching both those champions in the late game. We do have an invade here. There is a ward for Chelly and Jelly.
It's going to be exciting.
This is definitely a bit crazy. And here we go. There you go. Concussive blow is going to land. Jelly going to get stunned immediately, so the damage coming down. They've already taken some damage from the Krugs. And some crazy play here from LZIM, denying the Krugs early and chunking them out.
It's good to see the aggressive play we didn't expect with the lane matchups, but it's nice to see the contest come out. Too many people get away with the extra camp start. Punished well by IM.
Yeah, you just have to be very sure that they're starting their jungle on the opposite side of the map when you try shenanigans like that, but it can be effective. And there we go. So Sonstar and Ignar getting into lane without too much trouble, and that'll give Vayne a little bit of a window here to farm up unharassed, and Krvavi, I was going to check, he didn't know where they started. I think he assumed they started at his red, actually. That would be the natural assumption in that particular situation, that they might have had backup. So instead, that's not going to be the case. However, Tucson will be seen by the Hawk shot, but Krvavi actually mind-gamed a bit right there, and he's going to waste some time.
And given that he's an early presence jungler in Elise, who Lee accepted, you see a nice little elephant on the screen. Lee accepted is a really strong early duelist. The damage can be off the chain if you chain all your abilities in. The fact that he's delayed could be significant. It means he won't be there for the counter gank or the aggressive gank. His timing set back by what, 20, 25 seconds? That's quite significant in the early game.
Yeah, and had there been a different laner than Vayne that could have kept that pressure onto the tier 1, it could have signaled an invade onto the red buff too, depending. So not going to happen with a Vayne Braum lane this game, but certainly something that could result from an AD carry with higher early wave clear. And so just going to safely take that red buff though, but the first shot coming through for Tucson has that Ranger's Trailblazer, and he's going to have an early game advantage. Subtle, but still there.
Speaking of subtleties, this is actually one for the real armchair fan, is the fact that, you know, we've had multiple games with double teleports, with IM consistently having the win condition of setting up a split push with no viable answer to it, the likes of the Diana in games 1 and 3, for example. And that actually exists in this game, but it's from a different spot. It's the Vayne against Ashe. Ashe, very team fight mindset, wants to initiate 5v5 engages, never wants to find herself in an empty lane against Vayne as Tucson's coming.
Tucson is coming. There's the flash body slam, and they're going to nail this kill in the end. Flashing forward, and there's the kill coming through the Ignite. Chelly now stapled to the wall with the Condemn, and right there, that is the price of checking that red buff, because there was no possible reaction coming in from Krvavi.
Still pretty poor. I don't think both members had to die. Specifically, Ashe dies with her flash up. Could have got out there and been more defensive, tried to fight next to Jelly, who was always going to pay the price. And this just accelerates what I was alluding to before. Vayne's split push doesn't need the teleport, but there's no way to answer it from Ashe. So unless Maokai gets a couple of items, gets that unkillable Maokai phase, feels like Sunstar actually will be the one to have the split pushing duties rested on his shoulders.
Yeah, and a good start for Incredible Miracle that gave up that first blood on ganks in the last couple of games. So, you know, for the first time in the last 3 games, we are seeing an early advantage for LZIM. They haven't had to be in a position where they took some bad fights and gave up an early gold lead. And the question is this time, can they control the dragon better than they have in most of the games in this series?
I mean, Vayne has solo kill potential onto the Ashe. The answer should be yes. It obviously is very difficult for her and the Braum lane, as you mentioned, to control the wave against an Ashe who has AoE pushing options. So for now, Chelly unanswered as Braum goes for a walk, as supports are want to do.
And making sure to get some vision down. Ignar all by his lonesome, but he's got some good information, and wow, just a huge number of wards. 3 fresh ones placed down, and they're going to know exactly what is going on in that enemy jungle.
And if you're Braum, you know that the first ward will be swept. That's the reality, is that junglers will always save their smite for the Raptor. That'll get you the Raptor vision, but that's why you want all 3 wards down, because you guarantee 2 camps of vision in almost all situations.
Yeah, that's quite valuable. Well, Maokai going for a Ruby Crystal first in this particular matchup. So probably just going for a Cowl against the Maokai. Not going to be too surprising, but could delay his ability to actually match the wave pressure of the Maokai with that Sunfire cape. I suppose he could go Bummy Cinder too, we'll see.
In the previous meta that Malphite was in vogue, it's actually seen as a pseudo counterpick to Vladimir top. Haunting Guy, Sorcerer's Shoe was the big pick up there. It's not going to come out this game, but man can dream.
I always preferred the Olaf counterpick to the
goodness.
Vladimir.
The
that is the dirtiest one, by the way.
It's really funny. You max the axe, and then if you hit one, good luck with the pull helping you out, and Flash Ghost, you're still dead.
Yeah, there's really no way. If you guys haven't played this in solo queue, the next time somebody tries to play top lane Vladimir, play Olaf. And all you have to do...
One axe.
One axe. And even if they pull, you just run around the edge of the pool and then hit them with an axe right as he comes back up. It's basically GG.
Because they're slowed in the animation of the pull, and that just gives you some time to pick up the axe and hit the next one.
Yeah, it's really dumb. Highly recommended.
The hard counter picks that Riot's all about.
So, do see Ignar and Tucson stacking up here, maybe trying to bait out a gank, but we do see the MIA pings. They know exactly where Elise is heading back up towards those Raptors, so they really want this. They are going to... Ooh, that's not the best hawk shot. They see Ignar, but nothing else.
Hawkshot is now global, so it goes very far. Actually, it's giving vision of...
They don't know Tucson's coming in, and here we go. Nice ultimate, but Jelly gets a 3-man pull. And are they actually going to get the stun down here? Don't need it. Sonstar picks it up with the True Silver Bolts.
And the fact that Chelly had held onto the flash isn't even important, although actually has to use it now as the turret die is going to come in. And hard to kite out of there.
Well, those early wards doing a lot of work, and goodbye, Ash. Another 2 kills for Sonstar. Man, that one trip through the jungle got Incredible Miracle so much information to be able to make that play.
I think the more significant factor is that the Dark Wolves had so little information that they went on this solo invade for contesting a red that wasn't even there. And it's crazy that something like that, a 25-second to 30-second delay in your jungle pathing, has basically won Sonstar bottom lane. And we already mentioned the fact that he's going to always be in a position to outmaneuver Ashe in any sort of 1v1 split pushes, so Ashe's going to have to hide for farm. Play the Ruin Kings, what, 500, 600 gold away from completion. Dragon secured, and it's tough to say, but game mostly in the bag for IM.
Yeah, 3 kills early on this vein have been absolutely huge. And like you mentioned, you know, those little jungling errors can really stack up. We just saw the Elise kind of at the end of her rope, hadn't gone back to shop yet, had run out of potions. Pathing wasn't great, and that resulted in a pretty big advantage.
Just notice something that I can feed to you, Monte Cristo. The secondary max is W for the Malphite, so isn't going to be looking for any more points in the queue for potentially a little bit more. I think it's 50 damage per level burst or stealing movement speed, but the W, which of course, one thing we haven't mentioned with Malphite is the W, instead of just giving situational bonus armor, now gives percentage bonus armor. It's a bit like an armor death cap, 30% bonus armor at highest level. Not going to be taking any damage from Ashe.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We were discussing that ability at the beginning of the broadcast, or before the broadcast, rather. It's one of the more recent changes to Malphite, and will be coming into play, but, you know, not going to have any armor for a while, so the efficacy of that mostly in the splash damage for the wave clear.
I really do like the way that Riot changed that ability, because it still does the same things, right? It still gives more armor and AoE splash, but the AoE splash, sometimes you wouldn't even put any levels in Malphite's W because it really punished you when it came to last hitting under turret or pushing a wave. So now, permanent armor increase, you know, up to 30%, which is of course always great for a Malphite, and a situational ability to push rather than situational armor and a permanent ability to push. It's the same ability, but tweaked in a way that just makes Malphite's kit and design and laning phase that much smoother.
Yeah, although with the Sunfire, you're still not getting the most control over the minion wave, which is really his core item, right? So
but that's player-driven rather than necessarily
Sure.
champion-driven. So
Yeah.
it's a nice little tweak that doesn't actually change the identity of Malphite.
All right, well, IM now back into the bottom side jungle. They have so much power here. They've gotten that CS lead, huge kill advantage onto Sonstar, and this is their playground now.
To the extent that Ignar's thinking about a flank around the inner turret.
Oh, man. I mean, they should know where everybody is right now. Tucson and Ignar trying to set this one up. It would be ambitious, but here comes the TP from Malphite. Do you like Malphite ultimate dives?
Oh, I do.
Well, they're going to try and counter TP this. There's no dragon to be taken, so this is not going to be very successful for Incredible Miracle. As we do see Kervavi just kind of sneaking in. Expression, why are you even there? Well, he's going to try and get arrowed, I guess, and there's the ultimate. They want to disengage this. Expression has to flash out. Kyle coming through right now. Ignar getting wrapped up. Here comes the victory. He's pushed in. The help of that Azir ultimate. Now they're going to twist and advance him, but Chelly on the backside. Holy crap, that Vayne does a lot of damage.
Yeah, the Malphite helping as well. For some reason, Ashe was behind, in front of all her tanks, I guess, behind when it comes to the retreat, but effectively in front, so dies for the sins of basically the jungler and the pathing problems that caused earlier, because the snowball continues. Canceled the back as well, and Frozen was caught out, had to flash over the Emperor's Divide, but a sloppy team fight still extends the lead for Longzhu IM.
I don't even know why Malphite was trying to go that way through the enemy jungle. The TP coming in, and of course Kyle having that faster collapse on the Azir. And try and push into the mid lane right now. They'll get a little bit of work done.
this Chelly Ash is unfortunately looking very reminiscent of Arrow's Ash that we remember getting exploded by Faker a million times. He's got double Doran's Avarice Blade and a pickaxe. Every time I see Avarice Blade and a pickaxe in the same inventory as an Ash, and it's not 8 minutes into the game or 5 minutes, I worry for the Ash.
Yeah, you should. Sonstar coming in again. There's the flash. Winter's Bite.
Ash.
Goodbye, Chelly. Rip in pepperonis.
All the pepperonis.
It's not even worth gold anymore. Stop it.
I think Arrow said the same thing.
So another kill for Sonstar. They find the flank, make the aggressive play with the Summoners, and are able to convert yet again. And Sonstar is still sitting on about 2,500 gold right now, so he is going to have a nice shopping spree.
Going to be Blade of the Ruin King, Berserk Greaves, and starting up that Static Shiv or Phantom Dancer for compounding the misery of Chelly.
The misery of Chelly. I think that was an opera written by Verdi.
Oh. Was that the one that ended with everyone dying?
They all end that way, Bob.
Ah, right.
They all end that way.
It's been a bit of a slow death for the Dark Wolves. Granted, a reprieve in Game 2, but some kind of phases of this series accepted. In less dominant fashion than we expected, but still, Longzhou IM had mostly the control going most of the way through.
Well, and there's a big difference, too. When IM was actually able to control the early game, the snowballing has been very smooth from them. And they even fought back out of a deficit in the last one and turned it around with that split pushing. But now, able just to play around the power of this Vayne. There's an immense amount of dive pressure between the Malphite and the Vayne together. Now they're starting to move into the top side. No Dragon for another 30 seconds. This is their chance. Corvavi just going to get isolated. Hi, Frozen says, and goodbye to the Elise. Meanwhile, Sonstorm managing to find Jelly. Your ultimate has no power here with true damage. And Jelly going to fall once again.
Chelly and Jelly. We're not going to see them in Champions. I know Doe was sad about that. That sounds like a recipe for some excellent references, but unless they find their way onto a Champions team, looking unlikely. 8-0, perfect game territory, Monte Cristo at 15 minutes in.
Yeah, it would be sad if it ended with a perfect game, I think, for Dark Wolves after their long season to get here for this opportunity. And the fact that they have been able to make things competitive in the last couple of games, but this game has been all incredible miracle. And with a Vayne that already has 6 kills in 15 minutes, the light at the end of the tunnel is dwindling.
I'm waiting for the chat message to pop up saying mid-open. I think it's time.
Oh boy. Well, here we go. Tucson onto another Dragon. Much better Dragon control in the early game from IM. Here in our 4th match of the night. See if Corvavi can actually take this one away. Pulled out of the pit right now for safe. Oh.
Dance
It's a
Wars?
stare down.
It wasn't even dance. It was a stare. That was much more serious than I paid it credit to.
That's how you do it in the Old West, you know. There's no dancing. You just sit there with your hand hovered over the pistol on your hip, waiting for the other man to make a move, Bob Smithy.
You can keep playing the game of where is Malphite's head. It's a little bit clearer on the skin. Man, on that regular skin, it is very hard to tell where his head is.
I prefer to think the head is like 50% of his body.
Ah, that's quite scary. And it is scary when you see Malphite. You shouldn't be
But
laughing
see,
at his small head.
That's why you could theoretically make a Tiki Malphite skin where he's just like a giant Tiki head.
It'd be Totemic Malphite to go along with Totemic Maokai.
See? Nailed it.
Skin ideas with Papa Smithy and Monte Cristo. I'm sure someone would buy that. To be fair, I think Scarred Maokai is actually the Tiki one you're thinking of. Totemic was the other release.
I don't know. Whatever. Easter Island Malphite needs to be like a thing.
Sunstar's just chilling with a ward?
Yep. He's being sneaky.
No, Sneaky's the one that's dealing with the mid-open and Disco Nunu's Monte Cristo.
Well, you know what? The sad thing is Korean solo queue probably is still less trolly than an A solo queue.
In a different way, right? I was watching highlight clips as Sunstar watches the highlight of an Ash arrow go straight past him. I was watching highlight clips of... Did you see the solo queue game with... what was it? Deft, BDD, Apto.
Uh-oh. Well, that's everything missing right there. Jelly's still going to take a huge amount of damage. Tucson there just to zone out. LZIM getting a little bit overly excited. They still have this perfect game potentially going through, though.
They shouldn't take that lightly. Don't see many perfect games in the competitive scene. Usually something snuck, as everyone can jump over a wall, so it's K.
Yeah, this game has been significantly better, and I mean, Chelly he hasn't even gotten a BF sword yet. His item's still identical to when we checked in on him a couple minutes back.
Just happy there's no Diana on the enemy team. Arrow felt the pain of that. There's no real clear person to kill him apart from Vayne, and if he hits the Ashe arrow, might get away. It's sad times. He got the BF sword, Monty.
He's arrived.
The 25-minute game's not going so well. Infinity Edge for Ashe is coming.
I'm just waiting for Malphite to get enough armor to go down there and slam her.
Go down there and slam, man. We've made some questionable references today about Diana, about Ashe.
Okay, well, I mean, this Malphite just sort of chilling out in that top lane right now. Still not a lot of damage down or finishing power onto the turret.
Unclear if he's winning the stare downs as well. Need to watch the video for that one.
Well, we can't watch the replay to actually see the top lane Papa Smithy, so replays, those are things that don't exist.
Maybe low replay is running, who knows?
Okay, well, back to the never-ending laning. 20 minutes into this game.
But it's split pushing, Money. This is what you want.
I don't want Malphite split pushing.
You want Riven split push.
Yeah, that's what I
Me
want.
too.
GP, if you are cool with that.
Chelly's hoping the minions allow him to volley the minion wave. This is a bit depressing.
They are just blocking all of the damage out of Elise. Chelly desperately trying to farm on the bottom side.
This is the lane we want. No, we
I've
don't
been
get any more.
waiting my whole life for this moment, Papa Smithy.
I think Malphite's going to be a pickup well. That's kind of fun, because Malphite's ult is cool.
It's great.
It's just such a fast-moving projectile speed that it's awesome. Alistar can do the same thing, but when Malphite does it, he pounds them.
Would have been better if he was an Easter Island statue, just saying. There's nothing like a giant head speeding at you.
If you don't let up on it, maybe Riot will relent. Recent evidence may show that.
Oh boy. Well, we're still back into the slow death of the Tier 2 turret in the bottom side while we wait for more objectives to spawn on the map. Tucson finally finding an opportunity to zone out Chelly and Jelly, and there's another turret snapped up by Sonstar. Frozen here. And here's the attempt on the kill. TP coming through. Frozen. Defensive gravity field, though. And they are just going to pop the Glacial Fissure and retreat. Nice flash, though, for the Pulverize. Frozen low. He is going to go down. The perfect game dream is dead.
Oh.
But so may be the Dark Wolves' hope. They committed so much to a 1-for-4 play. But at least they got a kill.
Yep, they're no longer a statistic in the Guinness Book of Records, the perfect game record. That's probably not in the Guinness Book of Records, but should be, damn it.
More League of Legends records, please. All right, so here we go. The Baron has been started. Should be a pretty easy grab here for Sonstar and Tucson, who are already pretty powered up. Need a little bit of help from Expression, the tankiness side of things.
Ashe is considering leaving the game, so this one's not on his permanent record. End this custom game now, please.
And here we go. Baron at 21 minutes. LZIM with the snappy recall.
It's 3,400 gold between AD carries. Look, they got their objective. They killed someone.
I mean, Frozen played this really well. Obviously, he bought a lot of time to get his team back into that choke point. Flash pulled headbutt, not much you can do about that, but he already did the damage he needed to.
Malphite comes in super late, but man, when two squishes creep up, one of those squishes is Maokai, which is awkward, things go wrong.
So the perfect game dream may be dead, but IM has probably had their win accelerated, actually, by that fight, considering they were immediately able to respond with the Baron kill, and now they don't have to worry about TP from the Maokai coming in. It's just split pushing freedom for Vayne.
Split pushing freedom, that's definitely IM's favorite type of freedom. Not into the other types of freedom, but every time they've had the opportunity to split push, they've kept it up. Perhaps too long in some of the games, but they're Dark Wolves. To say they're being dictated to is an understatement. There's literally nothing they can do, barring finding whatever farm is kind of pushed into them by IM.
Just 12K at 22 minutes. Such an overwhelming advantage. This one looking a lot like game 1 in this series.
Let's go back to one of my favorite games, Monty. How many auto attacks from Ashe will it take to kill the Malphite?
You love this game. Well, Infinity Edge is done, and there's, well, Sunfire and Frozen Heart. Ooh. I'd go with 30.
30 sounds quite likely as Expression's on top of the...
Goodbye, Azir. Nothing can save him. Nice poke over the wall from Frozen's Death Ray. Chelly gets found out by a nice cast from Tucson. Lands that ultimate, and there's another kill. His Vayne just powering through the members of Dark Wolves. Another one for Victor, and now they're going to take the tier 2. They're going to take the inhibitor turret too. They've got the Baron buff, and the push already going. Cube, the last remaining member standing, and there are quite a few members of LZIM. Their sights set on this mid lane.
Sights set on retaining their champion spot. The Gatekeepers live up to their name. Game mightn't be over yet, but will be very shortly. This is definitely an overstay, but when you're this far ahead, 16,000 gold at 23 minutes, just bonkers lead in the 2015 metagame.
Yep. So another inhibitor crushed by IM, and we'll find a simple time to recall and then head for the actual final closure in this one. Might as well spend some of that money. Sonstar an astounding 9-0-4 at sub 25 minutes on Vayne. That's something you really just never want to see. That's one of the worst things to see in League of Legends. You look at the Vayne, you're like, oh, 9-0-4, that's pretty bad. Then you look at the time and it's 25 minutes, even worse.
Again, mid-open. Gragas has a Warmox for some reason. Goes really well with the Cinderhulk. Nice synergy there. Is Warmox? I think Warmox Heart's in the game, so he got sick regen when he's walking around. Yep, everyone's just a potential kill for Sunstar.
Party with Cube.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The answer was 7.
Oh, he auto-attacked a minion to mess you up right there.
Attack move fail.
Well, here we are, Curvavy, looking for something. Jelly is caught up, especially putting his spike fists on. Jelly gonna have to ult, but man, that damage from Victor is huge. And the very slow, methodical chase goes down. Sonstar just gonna flash for this one over the wall. One crit, finish off Ashe, and Kyle now very sad. No more flash for Sonstar. He's gonna have to take the long way around, but he's still going to not get it. Nice kill to shut down Kyle. Ruin Sonstar's perfect game, but LZIM is going to take this opportunity to ruin the Dark Wolves' hope of making it into champions.
The barrier was really nice on form there. Cube's now just trying to pad some more stats. Surrender comes through.
Yeah, surrender comes through, so Dark Wolves put up a fight, but LZIM, the Gatekeepers, have taken their place once again. They shoo Dark Wolves out of Champion Spring next year, and we'll see these guys again.
Yeah, they continue their run since the second ever season of OGN Champions Winter 2012-2013. This team has been entrenched into Champions, never really delivering on their promising performance. Specifically last year in the promotion tournament, they actually looked very strong, but just couldn't make it into a successful run in Champions. Their goal is going to be above it. It's going to be trying to get into the mid-table, because IM just have never got it together in a long season format.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations to Incredible Miracle. We will, of course, have another match tomorrow between Spenu, Sonic Boom, and Ever to see if we can have an upset there, to see if Spenu will fall, and we will have a new team in Champions next year. But for now, Dark Wolves will head back to that Challenger League. They did a lot better than I thought they would, honestly.
I mean, 3-0 was the word around most of the casters, so 3-1. And in games, in fits and spurts, in Game 3 they had a very good first 15 minutes. They looked competitive despite the fact the nature of the Challenger League, meaning that it's very difficult for these teams to amass really promising talent. They've still got a couple of members that are quite promising, but the experience edge, I think, was the big thing. Their macro game was just on a different level, despite some very bizarre brain fades in Game 2.
Absolutely. We'll see what happens to these Dark Wolves guys. There could always be the chance that they may be taken on to practice squads by some of the larger Korean organizations, or are they going to give it another shot next year? 3-1 the final score. Incredible Miracle qualifying once more for Champion Spring.
Expected result, maybe not the expected fashion. 3-1, looking strong, but still probably need a rejig in terms of lineup. I don't think the lineup that they showed today will necessarily be their best one going forward next season.
I have to agree with you there. And tomorrow, we will have another best of 5, Spenu Sonic Boom versus Ever for a seed in Champion Spring. Ever did lose 3-1 to Dark Wolves in the finals of the Korean Challenger League, so that is going to be quite tough, even though Spenu finished below Incredible Miracle in the rankings in Champion. Spenu actually was looking a lot better towards the end of the season.
And
so.
Ever's semi-final that qualified them for that final against the Dark Wolves was actually quite impressive. I was impressed by their warding, by their ability to protect the comps. They're really likely to play the likes of the Jugger more. They even tried Jugger Ash to mix successful. Poor success in the final. They have a chance against Spenu.
All right, well, see you tomorrow for some more Korean promotion, everybody. Until then, have a great rest of your night. See you then.